soloing 200 monsters. Just another Tuesday for Ash, our notoriously overpowered knight captain. But getting dumped by the Emperor, and his crush tossing him like yesterday's garbage? Yeah, the universe completely screwed him over. Talk about maximum emotional damage. Exiled to a totally brutal wasteland where only muscle matters, our boy awakened as a ridiculously cracked sword genius. Because obviously might makes right. Suddenly, super sketchy monster hubs called dungeons randomly spawned everywhere. These cursed labyrinths literally started vomiting out nightmarish beasts, causing absolute total havoc. The human realm got totally trashed. Innocent folks were sprinting for their lives while absolute bedlam erupted all around them. Enter the knights throwing down against the horde. When doom came knocking, humanity was practically begging for some overpowered heroes to carry them. Cut to an imperial border town getting totally wrecked. A ridiculously huge mutant wolf locks eyes on a terrified mom and her kid. Jaws unhinged, the oversized mutt dives in for a completely uncalled-for human snack. Boom! A hand violently snatches a sword hilt. Out of nowhere, a mysterious Chad drops in and absolutely claps the giant furball. Strolling up smoothly, he checks on the stunned victims before casually regrouping with his armored posse. Flashing a confident smirk, he tells them to chill. He casually drops his title, introducing himself as the squad's completely unbothered boss. With zero hesitation, he commands them to totally wipe out the remaining mobs. Suddenly, another rabid wolf speed rushes our captain. Seeing the aggro, he physically squares up for the inevitable collision. Drawing his steel with insane reflexes, he parries the beast's lethal dive right at the very last millisecond. The mutt gets dropped. But wait, a literal gargoyle suddenly dive bombs from the sky. Shrieking like crazy, the sky demon plummets. It violently craters the dirt as our guy casually sidesteps the fatal hit. Doing a tactical roll to create space, he quickly scans the area. His eyes lock onto a random farming rake. Snatching the rusty tool, he actually plans to use it as a legendary weapon. Launching airborne, he yeets the farming tool with terrifying force. Hilariously, the rake totally impales the flying demon right through its core. He admires his handiwork as the beast faceplants. Meanwhile, absolute chaos continues as his squad goes wild on the remaining horde. One sweaty teammate actually complains that these mobs are literally using infinite spawn hacks. Checking his battered squad, the captain screams for a status update. He loudly reminds them that losing here simply isn't an option. Hyped by his speech, his boys square up completely ready to brawl. The whole crew absolutely rushes the leftover stragglers. Following a totally exhausting grind, they finally collapse under the tranquil evening moonlight. Panting heavily, he questions if they cleared the wave. But suddenly, an absurdly massive shadow completely blacks out their resting zone. Heads snap upward instantly, realizing the final boss just joined the server. A god-tier snake violently erupts from the shadows. Staring at the absolute unit, Ash nervously chuckles that a mini-boss finally spawned. The colossal reptile unhinges its jaws, charging up a massive spicy laser. Boom, a devastating inferno erupts straight at the squad. Getting completely engulfed, he instantly throws up an X-block to tank the insane heat. He fiercely tanks the literal flamethrower. Going completely goblin mode, he literally jumps straight into the giant snake's gaping throat. Snap, the monstrous jaws violently slam shut, swallowing him completely whole. Flexing like crazy, he actually forces the giant fangs apart. Panicking at this insane stunt, the sniper girl loudly screams his name. Drawing her bowstring tight, she aggressively locks onto the beast's ugly mug. She fires one perfect shot while executing a slick tactical retreat. Bullseye. The arrow completely pierces the giant lizard's eyeball. Screaming in agony, it unhinges its jaws, letting our absolute madman break free. Sticking the superhero landing, he gives her major props for the clutch save. Spinning around instantly, his killing intent absolutely skyrockets. He violently launches himself forward to deal the ultimate perfectly timed finishing strike. Roaring fiercely, he absolutely dumps all his stats into this one critical hit. Executing an epic aerial spin, his blade cleanly decapitates the massive snake. Looking ridiculously cool, he dramatically walks away from the fresh loot. Spectating from afar, the terrified locals witness the absolute carry job. Going completely crazy, they loudly cheer their totally impossible survival. Just like that, the Empire's apocalyptic monster wave was brutally cancelled. Naturally, Squad 13 got heavily praised for hard carrying the entire defense. Obviously, Captain Ash's completely cracked performance totally stole the spotlight. The dude literally soloed over 200 mobs during the raid. Afterwards, his excited squad endlessly hypes up their outrageously overpowered boss. Thanks to his broken stats, he naturally unlocked a legendary new title. Scene shift. We head to a ridiculously fancy imperial castle. Deep inside the throne room, the king publicly flexes Captain Ash's glorious achievements. His epic reward, the shiny, brand new title of an associate noble. Bowing respectfully before His Majesty, he accepts this glorious honor. Stepping out of the royal chamber, thunderous applause echoes through the grand hall. His squad goes wild over this impossible, unprecedented rank-up. Our legendary captain they cheer is officially a high society nobleman. Flashing a smug grin, he drops the ultimate bomb: he is getting married. The massive flex leaves his comrades completely frozen in pure shock. One squad mate desperately begs him to reject the marriage, but he shoots it down. He explains his bride is House Reagan's prestigious second daughter. As a mere associate noble, rejecting such a powerhouse proposal was literally impossible. Patting his panicking friend, he chuckles that this crazy storm of events is overwhelming. Yet he confidently swears that this absolute chaos is actually a massive win. Clinking glasses together, he declares his life has hit peak perfection. Drinking to victory, he truly believed his golden era of glory had finally arrived. 3 years later, the golden dream shatters. He blindly asks his fiancée to repeat herself. With an icy glare, she delivers the fatal blow. Standing up dramatically, she brutally announces their engagement is completely cancelled. Brain completely short-circuiting, he desperately questions reality. Suddenly, a royal summons drags him before the furious Knight Commander. Pointing a menacing finger, the commander violently screams, "You are permanently expelled." Dumbfounded, our hero begs for a logical explanation. Flashback to his ultimate simp era, showering her with luxury gifts and desperately changing his entire lifestyle. She brutally sneers that breathing the same air as a filthy commoner sickens her, plus she just upgraded to a wealthy count's son. Mind absolutely shattered by this ridiculous betrayal, he freezes. Desperately lunging forward, he screams that this absurd breakup is completely unacceptable. He angrily protests, reminding her that her own father aggressively forced this marriage. Offended, she violently accuses him of slandering her noble bloodline. Snapping her expensive fan shut, she firmly refuses to tolerate peasant trash. Thrusting her finger, she brutally commands the guards to toss out the garbage. Instantly, 2 heavily armored meatheads violently restrain his arms. Being dragged away like trash, he pathetically begs for one last word. Without looking back, she cruelly sentences him to eternal banishment from her sight. The tragic scene brutally cuts to the gloomy streets, the majestic castle looming mockingly above. Trudging pathetically through the capital, his brain frantically processes the absolute absurdity. Why on earth would House Reagan suddenly snap their golden engagement? Out of nowhere, an obnoxious voice violently interrupts his miserable pity party. 2 smug knights command an emergency barracks report. Upon arriving, his absolute worst nightmare, Mike gleefully screams about his immediate expulsion. Mind utterly breaking, he furiously screams back at this blatantly ridiculous royal decree. Demanding answers, Mike brutally laughs that he is just annoying garbage. Stepping closer, the arrogant boss whispers the truth. He was threatening his cushy throne. The devastating truth strikes like lightning. This pathetic nepo baby Mike Leblov was the wealthy count's son who stole his fiancée. Boiling with absolute rage, he figures this talentless hack despises his self-made success. Catching the death glare, Mike obnoxiously taunts him. Flicking our hero's hard-earned medal, Mike whines that successful peasants disgust his noble eyes. He dismisses the legendary monster raid as pathetic child's play. Thinking of his precious squad, he silently swallows the outrageously toxic insults. But his patience violently snaps. Grabbing the arrogant jerk's pristine collar-blazing murder violently erupts in our hero's furious eyes. Smirking evilly, Mike drops the ultimate blackmail: "Release me, or your entire squad gets permanently fired." The cowardly threat strikes perfectly. Frozen in utter absolute frustration, his furiously trembling hands are violently forced to release the slimy noble's collar. Dusting himself off, Mike gleefully mocks the unbreakable wall of their social class difference. Ripping off the hero's medal, the villain sneers about teaching respect. Tossing the golden glory into the dirt, Mike ruthlessly crushes it beneath his expensive boot. He viciously spits that royal blood is something pathetic peasant trash can never buy. Delivering the ultimate eviction notice, he violently orders the peasant to pack up. Lugging his pathetic box, he walks the humiliating gauntlet of whispering, gossiping knights. Head down, he tragically abandons his beloved knight barracks completely. Reaching the dusty quartermaster office, he miserably knocks before pushing inside. Defeated, he flatly announces he is returning his precious knightly gear. The smirking quartermaster obnoxiously greets the infamous fired knight. Confused by the awful title, he asks why, only to hear that the whole kingdom knows. The creepy guy gleefully claims he violently harassed his beautiful ex-fiancée. The wildly fabricated rumor claims he forced her into terrifying twisted games. Heroic Mike allegedly rescued the damsel, legally justifying his absolute banishment. Storming outside, he furiously screams that this pathetic prank is totally insane. Blazing with uncontrollable wrath, he violently punches brickwork, roaring Mike's cursed name. He literally cannot believe Mike unleashed such insanely evil, baseless gossip. Flashing back through brutal years of grinding, he realizes his tragic reality. In one wildly chaotic second, his entire glorious life was absolutely nuked. Senpai, a familiar voice echoes out of nowhere. His frantic junior sprints over, demanding to know if the rumors of his departure are actually real. Enter Ulria, the 13th Night Squad's token rich kid. He awkwardly stops her panic, admitting he didn't quit, he was totally fired. She dramatically wails about needing his epic mentorship. Faced with her tearful outburst, he just blanks out, completely lost for words. Let's be real, she was basically the squad's adorable mascot. Her sudden massive meltdown definitely catches him totally off guard. Then she drops a wild accusation, claiming he's just playing hard to get and should have just asked. Sweating bullets, he desperately denies those insane rumors. Sniffling, she demands to know how the Janus squad will ever survive without him. Completely stunned, he silently watches his weeping junior. Flashback to 3 years ago, the local village was busy, bouncing back from absolute ruin. Back then, a squad mate heavily griped about our main character, snagging the only shiny medal from that crazy battle. His buddy sighs that the clueless Empire ignores dungeon threats. Trying to lift the gloomy mood, our hero steps up to give a pep talk. He passionately declares that keeping the villagers alive is their true ultimate victory. Who cares about snobby nobles? He insists they should hold their heads high. Suddenly struck by genius, he suggests officially naming their ragtag team. He immediately nudges his buddy for some cool ideas. He pitches Janus inspired by some epic ancient deity. The crew absolutely loves it, cementing their legendary new title. From that epic day forward, the Janus squad was born. Snapping back to reality, he promises his heart will forever belong to their team. Distance means absolutely nothing. His soul is permanently tied to their amazing squad. His junior asks about his next big move. Sick of all the royal drama, he casually mentions moving to an entirely different country. She frantically clings to him, screaming she will follow him anywhere. Giving her a gentle head pat, he tasks her with guarding the squad instead. Melted by his warm request, she obediently nods and promises to stay. She desperately begs for updates once he moves. Flashing a cool wave goodbye, he hits the road while she loudly demands those letters. As his figure slowly fades into the distance, she quietly watches him leave. A soft, hopeful smile eventually creeps onto her face. Cut to headquarters, he boldly tosses his medal on the desk, ditching his fake noble status. From today onwards, he's just plain old Ash. Arriving at the train station, he stretches out, feeling incredibly liberated. Clutching a shiny travel guide, a massive weight lifts off his shoulders. Sporting a huge grin, he gears up for his brand new adventure. The massive train soon chugs along the Empire's rusty tracks. Inside his cozy cabin, he kicks back to enjoy the relaxing ride. Boom! A totally random old dude suddenly slides his cabin door wide open. The stranger steps right in, strolling over like he owns the place. Halting right in his face, the guy asks for a quick second. Totally bewildered by this random spawn, Ash questions his identity. 2 whole days have passed since he ditched that toxic empire. Staring out the window, this insanely magical train completely blows his mind. Suddenly, a random elder interrupts his peace for a quick chat. Blinking in sheer confusion, Ash just asks who the heck he is. Flashing a dropped brochure, the grandpa asks if it belongs to him. After a polite thank you, the stranger asks if he's a total newbie here. Ash instantly asks how he guessed, and the grandpa chuckles about his obvious starry-eyed curiosity. Ash mutters that back home trains are strictly for filthy rich snobs. The old man laughs, bragging that here riding trains is totally basic everyday stuff. He proudly adds that this kingdom's magic tech is next level overpowered. Lore drop. The legendary Rosebell Kingdom constantly battled terrifying dungeon outbreaks. Their only weapon against these monstrous threats, pure, unadulterated magical firepower. Elite casters could blast literal fire and water from their bare hands, plus they heavily spammed insane healing miracles to keep everyone alive. Brilliant inventors started crafting overpowered magical gadgets using dead monster loot. These magical artifacts completely skyrocketed everyone's living standards into crazy luxury. Thanks to endless research, Rosebell kept leveling up its civilization. Today this place is globally hyped as the ultimate magic superpower. Comparing them, Ash realizes his old empire was basically living in the Stone Age. Suddenly, the intercom blasts that they've reached the dungeon city. The massive magical locomotive finally hits the brakes, wrapping up his epic road trip. Hopping onto the platform, he tags along with his new elderly buddy. The two happily chat while strolling through the buzzing metropolitan streets. A fancy horse-drawn taxi was already parked outside for the grandpa. Ash firmly shakes his hand, dropping a massive thanks for the awesome tour guide vibes. The old-timer cheerfully welcomes our hero to the glorious Rosebell Kingdom. Flashing a bright, carefree grin, Ash enthusiastically agrees. Stepping fully into town, this second dungeon metropolis absolutely blows his mind. Roaming the wild bazaar, the crazy magical inventory leaves his jaw on the floor. This mega hub was absolutely exploding with hyperactive merchants and insane loot. Navigating the crowded alleyways, he violently geeks out over every single glowing merchant stall. Out of nowhere, a terrified woman sprints down the alleyway. Browsing a nearby stall, our hero spots the chaos. What on earth is going on here? Hot on her heels, a pack of screaming thugs closes in. Trapped like a mouse, she hits a total dead end. boxing her, and the sleazy boss smirks, demanding she play along with his twisted game. Shaking like a leaf, she begs them to back off. Suddenly, Ash swoops in, dropping a heavy hand right on the punk's shoulder. With a smirk, he casually suggests the guy has had way too much juice. Furious, the thug barks at him to get lost. Blinded by rage, the meathead winds up a massive punch. Ash dodges the sloppy hook like it is absolute child's play. Wham! He sinks a lightning-fast counter right into the boss's gut. The crushing impact launches the thug screaming through the air. Seeing their boss utterly trashed, the desperate lackeys rush in together. Roaring like wild beasts, the duo lunges for the kill. Slipping past their strikes, Ash notes their surprisingly crisp martial arts foundation. Makes sense for street trash living in a hardcore dungeon city. Bam! A flawless spinning kick connects right with a goon's jaw. The devastating force ragdolls him completely down the dirty street. Watching his buddy fold, the final crony completely shorts out from terror. Closing the gap instantly, Ash delivers a spectacular facial reconstruction. Just like that, the epic alleyway trash cleanup is officially complete. Dusting off his hands, Ash cracks his knuckles like a total boss. But wait, the humiliated leader draws his steel blade, absolutely seething. Aiming the lethal weapon, he screams that this means absolute war. Ash sighs, mocking the clown for pulling weapons in broad daylight. Lunging forward, the maniac shrieks about sending our hero straight to the afterlife. Hold up, an imposing armored knight storms in, commanding them to freeze. The royal guard declares this street circus is officially shut down. Flanked by soldiers, the commander's eyes go wide. He actually recognizes the legendary Ash Hearts. Ash grins, casually greeting his old buddy Bale. Announcing himself as Sir Bale Baron, the commander instantly orders the trash mob thrown in the dungeon. Cue the flashback. These two used to clash steel in academy exhibition matches. Back in the day, they traded blows in countless epic tournament brackets. Deadlocked in victories, their blazing rivalry was the stuff of legends. Clashing swords forged an unbreakable brotherhood. Fast forward to today, the two bros are happily clinking glasses to their totally random reunion. Bale casually mentions he only swung by because locals reported a massive street brawl. Downing his pint, Bale asks what brought his rival to this kingdom. Ash takes a breath, ready to drop some serious lore. Hearing the tragic backstory, Bale winces at his friend's rotten luck. Ash grinds his teeth, admitting his blood still absolutely boils over it. A lightbulb clicks. Bale pitches an epic fresh start in this very city. Blinking like an idiot, Ash totally misses the brilliant concept. Pointing dramatically, Bale tells him to awaken as a certified dungeon hunter. Tilting his head, our clueless protagonist asks if that is some kind of joke. Bale chuckles, explaining it literally means slaying magical dungeon beasts. Hype-building Bale insists a powerhouse like Ash would rake in absolute gold. Eyes sparkling, he practically begs his buddy to join the guild. Crash, a panicked soldier bursts in screaming emergency. He screams that a catastrophic monster wave just erupted from the abyss. Blinking through the shock, Ash slowly pieces together the terrifying news. The sweaty guard confirms the Hunter Association is mobilizing for absolute war. Locking eyes with Ash, Bale hits him with a deadly serious look. Offering his hand, he challenges his old rival to join the frontline raid. During a dungeon break, bloodthirsty beasts flood the streets like a nightmare. Once unleashed, these mindless creatures slaughter absolutely everything in their path. Ash does the math, realizing they must slaughter the horde before innocent blood spills. Smirking confidently, our hero locks in and officially joins the party. Gripping hands, the legendary duo gears up to crush skulls together once more. Sprinting to the drop zone, they finally reach the kingdom's elite hunter guild. Inside, dozens of stressed awakeners are anxiously waiting for the military's game plan. A guard loudly declares that Captain Bale has entered the lobby. Desperate for answers, a rookie hunter begs the brass for some tactical intel. The control room is pure madness, practically radiating catastrophic disaster energy. Slamming his hands on the desk, Bale demands a full tactical damage report. Shaking terribly, the guild staffer stammers that exactly 100 beasts breached floor 10. Bale gritting his teeth, realizing a full-scale apocalypse is moments away. When questioned about his mysterious +1, Bale proudly introduces the legendary Ash. Scoffing loudly, a grumpy guildmaster points out Ash lacks an official hunter license. Crowding around, skeptical veterans mockingly ask if this pretty boy can even swing a sword. Bale just laughs, guaranteeing his boy is an absolute monster. Drawing his blade, the captain orders the entire raid party straight into the deadly abyss. Arriving at the city's second dungeon gate, Bale insists on gearing up our hero, offering to loan him some top-tier weapons and armor. Requesting just a light breastplate and a blade, Bale smirks. Slamming a weapon onto the table, he unveils it as a literal magic sword. Curious about the hype, Bale smirks, revealing it is a masterpiece of magical technology. Flashing a glowing core, Bale brags about its hidden specs. Grabbing the crystal, our hero lines it up right with the sword's hilt. Click, the magic stone locks into place. Gripping the hilt, he gasps as surging, overwhelming energy instantly courses through the heavy blade. Grinning from ear to ear, Bale boasts about its absurdly boosted cutting power. He hypes up the crazy special effects these magic weapons pack. Fully geared up, the raid party finally steps into the dark abyss. Dropping down to floor 1, they push deeper into the pitch-black creepy corridors. Hitting the second floor, they plunge further into the darkness. Bale casually mentions a heavy barricade blocking the stairs to floor 3. Reaching level 3, the dungeon's architecture suddenly shifts into something completely bizarre. Reminding everyone that dungeons are massive mystery boxes, he points ahead, ordering the squad to get into their battle formations right there. Bam! Something massive violently smashes against the wooden barricade. Panicking, someone screams that the monsters are already crashing the party. Barking out orders, the entire raid group draws their weapons, rushing into the chaos. Crash. The barricade shatters like cheap glass. Emerging from the dust, a terrifying squad of gigantic, roided-out gorillas roars at them. Bale instantly screams to aim right for their thick skulls, roaring like a maniac. One massive ape launches itself straight at our hero. Watching it fly, he dryly jokes that these beasts are moving in slow motion. Sidestepping smoothly, he completely decapitates the beast in one strike. The peanut gallery of hunters stands completely frozen in pure shock. Examining the glowing blade, he marvels at its absolutely ridiculous, buttery smooth cutting power. Laughing out loud, Bale asks if he loves the trial weapon. Realizing its insane stats, our hero realizes weak spots are basically optional now. Swish, he literally bisects another giant gorilla like a piece of cake. Lowering his blade, he casually watches the massive beast hit the dirt. But wait, even sliced in half, this freaky ape is still crawling toward him. Suddenly, the top half leaps up for a second round. Slicing it again, he realizes this annoying monster simply refuses to die. Sweating drops, Bale yells that these mutant apes are ridiculously stubborn to kill. Sighing, he dashes in, throwing a brutal flurry of punches and kicks. Weaving through its desperate swipes, he prepares to julienne the giant beast. With a battle cry, he lands a devastating final blow, officially ending the nightmare. Meanwhile, Bale is happily brawling, screaming that their pelts are basically walking gold. He cheers that wealthy nobles go crazy for these fuzzy jackets. The sidelined hunters sweat knowing those gorillas are actual boss-level threats. They quietly start whispering about who this crazy, overpowered temp worker really is. Suddenly, a knight gasps, recalling the legendary nickname Ash, the monster exterminator, the crazy madman who soloed an entire monster outbreak in the Empire. They say he butchered over 200 beasts all by himself last time. Jaw dropped, the extra hunters mumble that his stats are straight-up hero tier. The knight boldly claims he rivals the legendary 10 swords. As Ash casually massacres gorillas, the rookies cluelessly ask what the 10 swords even are. The veteran dramatically explains, it is the absolute peak title a knight can achieve. Yanking off his helmet, the sweaty knight nods vigorously. Revealing his awestruck face, he admits literally every single swordsman dreams of that god-tier rank. Sprinting through the bloodbath, Bale laughs, yelling that Ash leveled up insanely. Ash smirks, shouting back that he's way stronger than 12 months ago. Tag teaming like absolute legends, the duo gleefully bulldozes through every single monster appearing. Glancing over mid-swing, he playfully asks if Bale really thinks he leveled up. Smirking widely, Bale says he wants to recruit him even more now. Posing over a mountain of corpses, Ash asks if that is everyone, while Bale applauds. Staring at the massacre, the useless squad realizes those two madmen just slaughtered 300 giant beasts. The extras sadly realize they were basically just cheerleaders today. Later at the Association Guild, the cute receptionist prepares to drop the loot numbers. Squealing with pure hype, she reveals the raid bounty is a massive 600,000 coins. Bale casually flexes, noting that S-class hunters rake in this cash daily. Winking like a true salesman, he officially drops the guild recruitment pitch. Staring him down, he drops the ultimate question, will you become a hunter? The starry-eyed receptionist begs him to please say yes to them. Pondering for a hot second, he dramatically reaches out, declaring he will become a legendary hunter. With the contract sealed, the entire guild hall erupts into totally wild screaming cheers. Pumping his fist, Bale immediately demands a massive welcome feast. That night, an absolutely chaotic celebration shakes the foundation of the Hunters Guild Tower. Meanwhile, at the stuffy Imperial Knights headquarters, several incredibly boring days drag by. A tired colleague hands Ulra a mysterious postcard. Snatching it up, she flashes a quick smile of gratitude for the special delivery. Squinting at the messy handwriting, she wonders who on earth would actually write to her. Pivoting around, a giddy giggle escapes her lips. Cheeks burning red, she squeals about, finally reuniting with her precious senior. Inside the drab barracks, Ulra practically dances with her brand new treasure. Clutched to her chest, she rejoices that her senior is thriving. Scanning the stamp, she realizes he migrated to the Roosevelt Kingdom. Out of nowhere, her squad mates pop up, teasing her goofy grin. Snapping back to reality, she cheerfully waves at the gang. Blinking in surprise, she asks if their hellish training is already over. Slumping onto the sofa, her buddy whines about their miserable routine. Pouring some drinks, she drops the bombshell. Her senior is now a professional dungeon hunter. She brags about the juicy updates mailed directly to her home. Ears perking up, her greedy friend asks if the hunter gig pays fat stacks. Smirking confidently, she confirms the money is rolling in. Another squadmate instantly mutters about jumping ship for an easier paycheck. He groans that rotting in the 13th squad is completely pointless. Without missing a beat, Ulra casually announces she is quitting the Knights entirely. Jaws dropping, they gasp, asking if she is chasing Ash. She proudly nods. Catching the quitting bug, another Knight admits he wants out too. Sighing heavily, her buddy declares this squad is officially dead without her. Eyes sparkling with greed, he violently declares he will become a hunter too. Ulra completely freezes her eye, twitching at these absolute copycats. Completely clueless, the slacker asks for Ash's exact coordinates. Forcing a polite smile, she mentions the second dungeon city. The guy suggests a delayed trip, but she immediately demands a ridiculous group road trip. Panicking, he stammers about begging his parents for permission first. With a hilariously dramatic salute, they officially declare the 13th squad totally disbanded. Meanwhile, back in the kingdom, Ash boldly struts inside the Hunter Association. The cheerful receptionist beams, screaming Mr. Ash like a total fangirl. She eagerly asks if he is finally ready to sign his life away. Shaking with excitement, she absolutely gushes over his godly dungeon clearing skills. Introducing herself as May, she swears her undying professional loyalty to him. Shoving paperwork in his face, she demands his absolute life story. Scribbling down his stats, he slides the boring paperwork back across the desk. Beaming brightly, she tells him to hold tight while the magic happens. Moments later, she skips back, presenting his shiny hunter license in a fancy box. She strictly warns him to flash this VIP pass at every dungeon gate. Nodding slowly, Ash realizes the system is basically stalking their every move. Furthermore, every single monster drop must be surrendered to the guild. Chuckling dryly, he complains about losing his chance at a free winter fur coat. Crossing her arms playfully, she adds a terrifying clause about permanent, inescapable citizenship. Sweating slightly, he asks about vacations, but she swiftly shuts that dream down. Wrapping up the terrifying terms, she cheerfully welcomes him aboard. Gripping his plastic freedom, he awkwardly promises to grind hard. Wasting zero time, our newly minted hero marches straight toward the second dungeon. Reaching the massive looming gates, he stares down the abyss like an absolute boss. A grumpy gatekeeper stomps over, demanding to know his suicidal intentions. Flashing his shiny new card, Ash confidently gives a thumbs up. Scanning the rookie credentials, the board guard waves him straight into the monster-infested depths. Wham! Some massive, overly geared veteran violently shoulder checks him. Ash stumbles backward, watching his precious new license smack the dirty cobblestone. Grabbing the dropped card, the meathead grunts out a lazy apology. Suddenly his eyes lock onto the humiliating glowing green rookie stamp. Smirking condescendingly, the veteran sharply mocks him to stay upstairs before he gets slaughtered. Glaring at the retreating jerks, Ash mutters about their massive ego problem. Tightening his grips, he declares his epic grinding session has officially launched. Drawing his trusty blade, he plunges deep into the magical unknown, completely hyped. Stepping onto floor 1, he sighs happily about farming with zero toxic teammates. Snap, his combat instincts flare as monstrous bloodlust leaks from the shadows. Nearby, two goofy rookies cheer wildly over a tiny loot drop. Strolling closer, our confused hero questions their utterly bizarre farming method. Grinning like an absolute madman, the kid proudly claims they are literally fishing for jelly monsters. He hilariously explains his genius tactic of chucking cabbages into the pond as bait. Right on cue, a gullible slime aggressively attacks the floating salad. With a mighty heave, the kid yanks the squishy prey right out of the pond. Thwack! He brutally stabs the core, instantly deleting the poor slime. The proud gamer explains this lazy trick guarantees free, low-level magic cores all day. Boasting loudly, he calls these gelatinous blobs the ultimate infinite money glitch. Ash sweat drops, casually observing that these basement-tier mobs are ridiculously weak. Offended by the flex, the cheeky kid dares our over-leveled rookie to hit floor 10. Suddenly, he turns and demands a tip. With his hand out, the cheeky rookie charges an info fee. Coughing up the cash, our guy waves goodbye with a totally embarrassed grin. He sighs, realizing the newbie completely scammed him. Shaking it off, he struts toward the next dungeon floor. Grinning, he is totally pumped to smash some monsters. Meanwhile, those cocky veteran hunters face an absolute disaster. The group leader shrieks like a banshee, utterly terrified by the monster swarm. Trapped hideous beasts block every escape route. Cut to our guy hitting floor 4, a totally different vibe. He gasps, the dungeon literally changes themes. Looking up, he is shocked to find a literal underground sky. Suddenly, a rustle from the tall grass pop. The most adorably fluffy creature waddles right into view. The critter turns around totally clueless. But wait, the psycho rabbit suddenly launches a deadly horn torpedo. He easily dodges and smacks it. Note to self, cute definitely does not mean harmless. Victory dance, his very first dungeon kill is in the bag. Whipping out his trusty guidebook, he furiously investigates. Flipping the pages, yep, it is literally called a horned rabbit. 10 points for creative naming. Crouching, he expertly harvests the horn and magic core, tossing the loot straight into his tiny magical pouch. He stares in awe at the bag's crazy spatial magic. But wow, these bunny drops are hilariously cheap. Yeah, farming these fuzzballs is totally not worth the effort. He turns around and freezes. An entire bunny army. He books it sprinting for his life from the apocalyptic swarm of pure fluff. A few ridiculous chaotic mishaps later he hits floor 9. By floor 10 the exploration becomes an absolute peaceful breeze. Hitting the 13th floor he realizes he has ventured absurdly deep into the abyss. Strolling through the zone he wonders what crazy biome is next. Suddenly, a blood-curdling shriek echoes from the shadows. Sprinting toward the distant scream he spots the chaos. It is those veteran hunters getting absolutely wrecked by undead. He instantly recognizes the exact same cocky squad from the dungeon's front door. A skeleton raises its blade to execute the leader. Dashing in, our hero screams for the guy to duck. Flying, he deflects the lethal strike, pulling off a clutch rescue. The stunned veteran gasps, asking if he is alright. Squaring up, our guy gets totally pumped to brawl this literal bag of bones. He swings hard, aiming straight for the alleged weak spot. Bam! The bony warrior explodes into a million tiny pieces. Creepy plot twist, the shattered skeleton is still twitching. He sweats, wondering if he actually needed a headshot. With one ruthless sword swing, he smashes the undead skull into literal dust. He exhales, wiping his brow, thinking the boss battle is over. Nope, the glowing chest stone flashes ominously. Like a glitched video game, the skeleton magically reassembles itself. He panics. Is this bony jerk secretly immortal? One of the battered hunters frantically yells out the actual cheat code, rip out its magic core. Staring at the glowing chest, the light bulb finally clicks. The resurrected skeleton recklessly lunges forward for round 2. Slipping past the rusty blade, he perfectly sets up his counterattack. Dropping low, he aims for the glowing jackpot. Boom, he rockets forward, driving a devastating pinpoint punch right into the ribcage. Snatch, he rips the glowing core straight out with his bare hand. Flexing the loot, he completely mocks the monster. Core removed, the undead menace instantly collapses into a useless pile of cheap calcium. He smirks, turning to face the rest of the skeleton crew. Now he knows the exact cheat code to win. Whoosh, he blitzes forward casually, obliterating a second skeleton's magic core in one epic strike. Bam, another one bites the dust. Moving like an absolute blur, he completely wipes the floor with the undead horde. Phew, he sighs, wiping the epic sweat from his face. The battered hunter squad practically bows down in pure gratitude. The bruised leader squints, finally recognizing him as the total rookie from the entrance. Bowing his head, the veteran profusely apologizes, admitting the rookie is totally overpowered. He explains the dungeon had been suspiciously peaceful. Cue the tragic flashback. The elite squad happily strolls right into the danger zone. Suddenly, ninja skeletons jump them from the absolute darkest shadows. Their absolute bro, Sammy, tanked a massive hit and got critically wounded. They desperately tried clashing with the undead horde, but the difficulty curve spiked hard. He sighs, completely admitting they got totally clapped. Back to reality, the squad rushes to heal their bleeding buddy. This cut severed his nerves, before panic could set and an eerie rattling echoed from the pitch-black shadows. An absolute massive undead skeleton horde marched straight out of the darkness. Another hunter screamed in sheer terror. More bony bastards were closing in. They were completely trapped. "Watch your back," the female hunter shrieked as the undead swarm lunged. He spun around, caught off guard. A massive wave of skeletons vaulted forward, thirsting for their blood. Flash of steel, he obliterated a skeleton's magic core, but the remaining undead freaks instantly regenerated. Bingo. To put these boneheads down forever, he had to crush their cores. Grab the wounded and run. He roared immediately, smashing another core into absolute dust with his blade. A brutal roundhouse kick blasted the undead away, carving out an escape route. Damn it, there are way too many. Pinpointing their cores was impossible now. He was completely boxed in. Brain racing for a survival plan, a literal light bulb went off, that random junk he bought earlier. Flashback time. After purchasing a slick new blade and chest plate, he had smugly declared his gear flawless. The grumpy blacksmith had tossed in a freebie smoke bomb. He had totally doubted its actual combat value. Snapping back to reality, he frantically rummaged through his pockets for that freebie. Gotcha. A wicked grin spread across his face. It was a total gamble, but it was his only shot. He vaulted skyward, chucking the bomb dead center. It smashed a skull, instantly vomiting blinding smoke everywhere. The fleeing hunters paused, praying to the heavens this crazy stunt would work. "Please actually work," he prayed. Miraculously, inside the suffocating fog, the undead horde completely froze in their tracks. Holy crap, it worked. The hunters cheered in absolute disbelief at the miracle. "Move your asses now," he bellowed. Hauling their bleeding comrade, the party dashed away from the paralyzed monsters. Catching their breath, he confirmed they lost the aggro. But checking the nasty wound, the arm looked completely unsalvageable. He quickly slapped a tight tourniquet over the gruesome gash to halt the blood loss. Open wide, he ordered aggressively, pouring an entire high-grade healing potion straight down the dying hunter's throat. The massive bleeding finally stopped. Fast forward, the battered squad successfully dragged themselves back to the Hunter Association. Bursting through the doors, he roared for an emergency medic at the top of his lungs. Medics hauled the guy away on a stretcher. Slumping onto a lobby couch, he sighed, completely drained. The party leader bowed deeply, offering a fat cash reward. He waved it off. Hunters watch each other's backs. One agonizing hour later, the doctor finally emerged to face the terribly anxious party. That potion saved his life, the doc stated grimly. But the delay was too long. That arm is completely gone. Swallowing the heavy truth, Ash smiled softly. Let us find him a one-handed gig then. Watching their unbreakable bond, a pang of jealousy hit him. A bittersweet flashback sparked of his own chaotic crew. 1 whole month passed. A cute waitress teased his solo status while he politely rejected another persistent party invite. Did you seriously reject the elite Golden Knight squad? A hunter gasped in sheer shock. That leader was an arrogant jerk, he scoffed. Suddenly, tavern gossip erupted. A legendary named monster had just spawned. What the heck is a named monster? The veteran hunter leaned in to drop some lore. A terrifying headless horseman called Dullahan just manifested. Stay far away, kid. Those boss-level freaks are absolute death wishes. Suddenly, the tavern doors swung open. A breathtakingly gorgeous woman stepped inside, instantly paralyzing every single guy in the room. She confidently strutted past the drooling crowds, ignoring every single thirsty stare thrown her way. While dodging another party invite, soft hands suddenly blindfolded him from behind. Guess who? A sweet voice chimed. Total mental short circuit. He spun around, completely clueless about who was playing this game. His jaw practically hit the floor. Ulka. She beamed with a blinding smile. Found you at last, senpai. Later that evening, over some late-night cafe drinks, he finally asked why she traveled all the way to Rosebell Kingdom. I literally chased you here, she grinned. Shocked, he asked about her elite knight status, but she casually dropped a bombshell. He nearly choked on his coffee. But you are a noble, she just shrugged. I completely disowned my family for this. A fierce memory flashed. Her imposing father demanding she defeat him in combat to earn her absolute freedom. She drops a bombshell. She absolutely crushed her old man in battle just to escape. With a triumphant smirk, she declares her new class, full-time dungeon hunter. Our guy completely blue screens, standing frozen like a totally stunned NPC. She boldly asks if he can juggle being a hunter and a hubby. Sweating bullets, he stammers out, "Do you actually like me?" She immediately nods, yes. His brain short-circuits. If she's actually into him, his own heart might just surrender entirely. Dark memories of his ex's brutal betrayal flash by. Masking the pain with a gentle smile, he quickly deflects and shifts the entire topic. Grabbing his attention, her playful aura vanishes into dead seriousness. Squeezing his hands, she bluntly declares that he's an absolute pitiful mess right now. Boiling with rage, she screams about the emotional scars his ex left behind. Leaping up, she fiercely vows to never abandon her dear Sunbae. Hand over her heart, she stakes her very life on that promise. Her gaze softens, declaring he will never be treated as someone's mere plaything ever again. Leaning in dangerously close, she coyly suggests they just keep things going. He violently chokes on his drink. Was she always this delightfully aggressive? Sweating profusely, he desperately tries pulling away, stammering that he absolutely needs to escape to the inn. Strolling together, he casually asks if she's booked a room yet. Pointing awkwardly, he mutters that his route is strictly in that specific direction. Yet somehow they hilariously end up marching side by side down the exact same street. Climbing the stairs, sheer panic sets in as their paths refuse to diverge. Reaching his door, he turns around to find her glued right behind him. She instantly slips inside, slamming the door shut. Freaking out, he screams in absolute disbelief, totally baffled by this sudden and hilarious home invasion. With a cheeky grin, she confesses she interrogated the association for his address and simply moved in. She locks the door, proving she is dead serious about this. Wrapping him in a tight, inescapable hug, she happily declares they are officially roomies forever. Leaning in dangerously close, she seductively whispers his favorite title into his ear. He turns bright red, completely frozen like a glitching statue. Cut to the next morning, the sun shining brightly over that very same chaotic inn room. He sits on the bed, wide-eyed, questioning his reality, while she slumbers peacefully right beside him. Blinking awake, she cheerfully greets her Sunbae. Grabbing his hand, she playfully teases him for showing such incredible restraint all night long. With a sly wink, she promises there's absolutely no rush for their romance. Blushing furiously, he stammers a vow to eventually take the lead. Chuckling, she tells him to gear up. It is time to snatch her official hunter license. Drained and defeated, he mentally weeps, realizing this girl is going to give him chronic insomnia. Flash over to the bustling Hunter Association. Walking through the massive guild doors, he double-checks if she is truly ready for her official registration. Suddenly, May the receptionist beams at him with an aggressively cheerful morning greeting. Boom, Ula pops out completely, jump-scaring the poor guild girl. Flashing a confident smile, she boldly demands her brand-new hunter license. Panicking, the flustered receptionist loudly screams for her to hold her horses. Sweat dropping at the intense catfight, he asks what is wrong. Ula casually admits dropping a subtle threat because the guild girl was clearly thirsting over him. Fuming with jealousy, the receptionist furiously slams the shiny new license onto the counter. Glaring daggers, May vows she absolutely refuses to lose this romantic war. Snatching her ID, Ula just smirks, basically telling her to bring it on. Lightning practically sparks between their glaring eyes, igniting a comically intense battlefield of pure love. Trapped in the crossfire, our clueless hero just awkwardly stands there. Coughing nervously, he finally interrupts, declaring it is officially time to hit the dungeon. Standing before the ominous abyss, he gives her the green light to descend into the depths. Hitting floor 10, the real adventure finally begins. Pointing at the lurking mobs, he challenges Ula to solo the entire wave to prove her worth. Two absolutely massive ape monsters beat their chests, readying a completely brutal charge. The beasts barrel forward like freight trains of fury. Unfazed Ula casually draws her bowstring back, locking her piercing gaze onto the incoming targets. Swoosh one. Piercing arrow blasts through both targets flawlessly. Arms crossed, our guy nods like a proud mentor, clearly impressed by her insane accuracy. Not holding back, she smoothly loads up an epic triple shot technique. 3 deadly shafts lock onto the raging apes. With a sharp exhale, she unleashes the multi-shot, sending the projectiles screaming through the dungeon air. He whistles at her godly archer skills, but the beefy apes survive, violently closing the gap for a lethal point-blank melee smash. Switch to melee, he urgently barks out. Without missing a beat, she whips out a wicked dagger ready to slice and dice up close. Moving like a phantom, her deadly blade dances across the first ape's massive chest. The beast howls in agony. Dodging its clumsy counter, she styles on it with a flawless backflip, landing another lightning-fast dagger strike. Channeling explosive aura, she plummets down like a meteor, executing a glorious fatal blow. Watching the absolute massacre, he casually praises her terrifying assassin skills. Standing victoriously atop the fallen mobs, she waves happily, declaring the battle officially over. Bursting with masterly pride, he praises his star pupil. Leaving the dungeon behind, the duo strolls back to town. Her growth is absolutely staggering. Casually strolling, he boldly suggests diving straight into the 13th floor first thing tomorrow. But suddenly, a frantic hunter sprints toward them, screaming his name. The situation is utterly catastrophic. A horrific named boss spawned. The legendary Dullahan has crashed their dungeon run. Chaos consumes the guild hall. Rumors fly like wildfire, while a traumatized survivor sobs uncontrollably in the corner. Her entire party walked straight into the Dullahan's deadly ambush. Over 10 lives snuffed out instantly. Kneeling gracefully, our main character begs her to reveal the monster's attack pattern. The monstrous blade unleashed a devastating area of effect, wiping everyone out. Questioning the weapon triggers pure despair. Hitting a dead end, he sighs deeply and falls back to his party. A funeral mission, not quite. Bale firmly declares they must salvage the fallen bodies first. They desperately need combat intelligence on that beast. Meanwhile, the shattered survivor is gently escorted outside the guild. Watching her retreat, the crew realizes squeezing tactics out of her is a totally lost cause. Without vital combat, Data launching a raid party is absolute suicide. Flashback time. A monstrous gorilla raged through hellfire. Taking down such titans requires every S-rank hunter available. Snapping back to reality, Bale announces the recovery squad desperately needs elite bodyguards. If that headless freak spawns, the entire escort team is completely doomed. Haunted by the weeping survivor, his heroic instinct kicks in. Striding to the counter, he demands mission details immediately. Like a true protagonist, he boldly volunteers to escort the corpse recovery unit. Morning breaks. The strike team rallies at the gates. The commander barks orders. Target zone floor number 14. And if the Dullahan crashes the party, the brilliant tactical plan is to run for their lives. 2 cocky extras brag about handling it easily. But our hero plays it safe, telling his precious disciple to sit this nightmare out. Pouting furiously, she fiercely insists she refuses to be dead weight. Debate over. With a booming battle cry, the squad mobilizes, plunging straight into the abyss to kick off this deadly raid. Floor 13 is pure nightmare fuel. He barks an urgent warning. An undead skeleton ambush lies just ahead. Eerie crimson eyes flare up. The skeletal horde charges, craving fresh hunter meat. Focus on the corpses. Pivoting to his sniper, he orders Ulka to shatter their magical cores. Bullseye. A single piercing arrow violently shatters multiple cores at once. The veteran hunters gape in awe at her monstrous marksmanship. At this rate, they could totally AFK and let Ulka solo the entire mob. But wait, a spine-chilling sound paralyzes the raid party. Panic erupts as Vanguard hunters sprint backwards. Absolute terror grips their souls, rising from a sea of hellfire. The named boss descends. The legendary headless Dullahan. Cloaked in infernal magic, the demon locks onto its prey. Raising a massive blazing greatsword, it targets a helpless extra. A blinding flash, the merciless fiery sword swings down with catastrophic force. Block it. The poor guy's blade literally liquefies from the intense heat, one godlike swing, and the entire front line gets wiped out. A boss monster. Here. The power scaling makes no sense. Staring at the molten wreckage, he questions that insane demonic weapon. It completely bypasses defense. Everything instantly melts upon contact. Facing such overwhelming stats, winning seems mathematically impossible. Suddenly, the headless titan shifts its gaze. It locked onto their aura. Pure survival instinct activates. He screams for a full tactical retreat, but a bizarre metallic clank forces him to look back. Plot twist, the raid boss isn't even chasing them down. The Dullahan stands completely still, radiating majestic aura. Baffled, he watches the monster violently stab its blazing sword into the earth. What kind of NPC behavior is this? Wait. He recognizes that honorable stance. It's a formal invitation to a true knight's duel. Nostalgia hits. Memories of blood-pumping spars against Bale flood his mind. The battle junkie awakens. Flashing an absolute maniacal grin, he draws his blade, fully accepting this legendary one-on-one. Adrenaline surges through his veins. One strike decides life or death, but Ulka screams his name, rudely shattering his dramatic anime moment. Violently dragging him away, she scolds him. Survival absolutely comes first. Pouting like a deprived child, he reluctantly sheathes his weapon. Tucking tail, the entire party hilariously scrambles far away from the fiery boss. In their wake, the headless knight stands frozen like a cursed statue. Mid-escape, a terrified hunter cries that only Imperial Knights stand a chance. Suddenly, Ula points at his face, completely baffled. "You're actually grinning," she gasps. Startled, he slaps a hand over his mouth, desperately trying to wipe away his battle-hungry smirk. One tiny slip-up against that beast meant absolute instant death. Still smirking, he wonders, is he really crazy enough to fight it? Later, Rosebell City slumbers peacefully under a glittering cosmic canopy. While Ula washes away the dungeon's grime, Ash sits frozen on his bed. His mind replays that overwhelming, monstrous aura on a loop. Back at the guild, the surviving cowards hysterically report their nightmare. The receptionist gasps, recognizing the legendary flaming blade. The broken hunters wail that slaying such a titan is utterly impossible. She grimly orders them to abandon their fallen comrades. Panicking, a rogue admits the royal knights are completely out of reach. The grim reality sets in. The guild is entirely on its own. Spotting Ash, the desperate receptionist begs for a miracle. She actually asks him to solo the immortal Headless Horseman. Totally stunned by the suicidal request, he just stares at her blankly. Suddenly, Ula yanks his sleeve, silently demanding his answer. Snapping back to reality, he requests a little time to process this death wish. Smiling, hopefully the clerk agrees to wait. Back at their cozy inn, Ula steps out fresh, casually towel-drying her hair. Anchored to the mattress, he calls her name. The playful atmosphere vanishes. He admits they need a heavy conversation. Dropping beside him, she tilts her head, waiting for the heavy truth. Fists trembling with anticipation, he confesses his desire to clash with the Dullahan, not for guild duty, but for pure battle thirst. He tries ordering her to stay safe, but bam, she slaps a hand over his mouth, shutting down his heroic nonsense. Viciously stretching his cheeks, she fumes. Did this idiot actually think she'd let him hog all the fatal glory? Memories flash back to the catastrophic monster outbreak within the glorious empire. He tried playing the lone wolf back then too, but she had sworn to follow him straight into the abyss, regardless of danger. Eyes blazing with resolve, he officially accepts the suicidal boss raid. Still dizzy from her cheek pulling, Ash listens as she declares his inevitable victory. Promising to watch his back, she demands they discuss his winner's reward. Ash nervously suggests a luxurious feast at a high-end restaurant. Ula smirks. Food is great, but she has a much sweeter prize in mind once this bloody nightmare finally ends. Ash raises an eyebrow, and she winks. He accepts the mysterious terms sealing their little pre-battle promise. By dawn, they're grilling a merchant for gear to survive hellfire. The shopkeeper offers a bulky shield, but Ash instantly rejects the heavy junk. He demands featherlight agility. The merchant nods, realizing this crazy kid plans a deadly hit-and-run dance. Ula points out, the obvious won't cheap metal melt. The merchant brutally replies that disposable gear is meant to be trashed. Sweating at the cost, Ash claims he has a tactical loophole. Soon they descend into the 13th floor's oppressive darkness. Stepping into the death zone, he signals Ula. The nightmare boss is dead ahead. The Dullahan looms like a mountain of despair, an army of skeletons at its feet. It had been patiently waiting for his return. A chill runs down his spine as he spots the freshly slaughtered guild members. The growing mountain of corpses cranks the tension to maximum. Gripping his new disposable gear, he initiates his high-speed strategy. Aura flaring, he locks in. With a deafening war cry, the dynamic duo launches their explosive joint assault. Ash parkours up a ruined pillar while Ula takes the vanguard. Her bowstring sings, unleashing a brilliant magical arrow at the Titan. But the Juggernaut carelessly swathes the magic aside with its blazing hellblade. Diving from the heavens, Ash executes a plunging strike. The Headless Knight answers, raising its colossal greatsword to crush him. Steel clashes with a deafening boom as the Titan blocks. Wait. The Hellfire enchantments are totally turned off. Instantly, the beast counters with an earth-shattering horizontal sweep. Ash barely blocks, but the sheer kinetic force nearly pulverizes his blade. Teeth gritted, he desperately holds his ground against overwhelming strength. Panic flashing in her eyes, Ula screams his name and snipes. The glowing shaft nails the giant's shoulder, throwing it slightly off balance. "You alive over there?" she yells. Ash spits out a cocky confirmation. His mind races, the Hellfire is still dormant. That absolute maniac of a monster is actually enjoying this deadly dance. A feral, adrenaline-fueled grin spreads across Ash's face. Tightening his grip, he prepares to show this boss a real fight. The Headless Knight wasn't finished. It raised its massive blade, radiating pure menace. In a flash, the undead monster lunged forward to settle the score. Blades leveled, they locked eyes for an epic duel. The battlefield grew dead silent. Both warriors waited for that one perfect opening to strike. Taking to the sky, Ash unleashed a devastating aerial assault, but clang, the giant sword swatted his strike away like a pesky fly. Wait a second, no Hellfire. Realizing the monster was actually holding back, Ash charged forward at breakneck speed for round 2. Spotting Ula readying her weapon, Ash desperately waved her off. "Hold your fire." Grip tightening on his hilt, he dropped a massive bombshell. This creature wasn't just a mindless beast. Those parries, that footwork, that was textbook royal swordsmanship. With a cocky grin, Ash decided to test a crazy theory. Straightening his posture, he offered a formal bow. "I am Ash, former Imperial Knight." The headless warrior physically reacted to his title. Snapping its boots together, the towering creature shifted into a highly recognizable guard. Blade raised high to the heavens, it executed the flawless salute of the fallen Rosebell Kingdom. Bingo, a knight's honor never dies. Ash called out to Ula, whose brain was practically short-circuiting from sheer confusion. "I am taking this guy one-on-one," he barked, commanding her to stay absolutely out of this honorable clash. Gazing at his foe, Ash sighed. "Such a pity I cannot learn your name. But don't worry, your legendary strength ends here." "Brace yourself," he roared, rocketing across the earth with killer intent for a decisive strike. Boom, a lightning-fast thrust nailed the undead knight perfectly in the chest. But shockingly, it only chipped the heavy plating. Annoyed by that insane defense, Ash switched to pure button-mashing tactics. If one hit didn't work, he'd just spam attacks until that armor shattered. Clang. Another dead-center strike landed, but the behemoth did not even flinch. But the follow-up strike spiderwebbed the damaged steel. Ash smirked like a total villain. "Gotcha, you are not immune to physics after all." Glaring down at its ruined breastplate, the Dullahan had finally had enough. With earth-shattering force, it plunged its massive blade straight into the dirt. Whoosh! A roaring vortex of crimson hellfire erupted around the cold steel. Brandishing the blazing inferno, its aura turned terrifying. Ula screamed in absolute panic, recognizing the cursed legendary hellfire blade. Flashing a maniacal grin, Ash cracked his knuckles. "Looks like the warm-up is finally over. Now we are talking." Leaving a trail of fire, the juggernaut blitzed forward. Ash twisted wildly, but a searing arc of heat kissed his shoulder. "Yikes, that is hot," he yelped, leaping backward to put distance between them. "That nearly turned me into a roasted shish kebab." Panting slightly, Ash locked eyes with the fiery demon as it hoisted its hellish weapon once more. Clang, he barely caught a devastating overhead slam, but his eyes widened as his trusted steel literally began melting like cheap butter. Looming over him, the relentless warrior coiled its muscles for a fatal execution swing. "Senpai, get out of there," Ula shrieked, practically tearing her hair out. Yet Ash simply flashed a devilish "I got this" smirk. Boom! Sparks and embers rained down as the two blades violently collided again. Shifting his grip, Ash flawlessly deflected the fiery wrath. Even the undead knight seemed to glitch in pure disbelief at the parry. "Did you really think I came empty-handed?" Ash chuckled, overflowing with cocky confidence. Tapping his magic spatial pouch, he pulled out his ultimate cheat code. Clatter. Dozens of premium swords rained down, stabbing into the earth like a graveyard of steel. "Let's play a game. Can your fire melt my entire arsenal, or will I smash your core into dust first? Let's find out." Yanking a fresh, shiny sword from the dirt, he fell into a flawless, offensive stance. Dual-wielding like a total boss, he dared the blazing juggernaut to step up and test his luck. Exploding off the ground, the two titans clashed in midair, but against the hellfire blade, Ash's attack hit a brick wall. Crack sizzling under the monstrous heat, his primary weapon exploded into useless metal shards. Zero panic. He instantly swung his offhand blade, wildly evading as the monster turned into a relentless lawnmower of fire. Leveling its fiery greatsword horizontally, the beast charged up an absolute nightmare of a technique. Whoosh! A massive crescent of flames tore through the battlefield. Ash blocked, but his second weapon was instantly reduced to hot slag. Tucking into a desperate barrel roll, he slid right into his glorious field of backup weapons. Snatching another steel blade from the dirt, he yelled like a madman. "That makes 4 weapons left in the chamber." With a massive heave, he hurled the sword like a deadly javelin, but the flaming giant casually swatted it away like a pesky mosquito. Instantly chucking another flying blade, he flashed a crazy grin. And then there were three. Time to finish this. Gripping its massive blade, the undead knight shifts its stance. Suddenly, a devastating tsunami of blazing hellfire erupts straight toward Ash. Caught off guard, our hero stares down the overwhelming inferno. In mere seconds, the scorching flames swallow the entire battlefield whole. Watching from the sidelines, Ula screams her senior's name in pure panic. But against all odds, Ash tanks the blistering heat. Driving his blade deep into the scorched earth, he anchors himself against the blazing storm. With eyes locked on his target, he declares this is his absolute final blade. Launching himself into the air, he vaults toward the headless giant mid-flight. His hand snaps down to yank the final weapon from the dirt. Sensing the incoming strike, the ironclad behemoth drops into a heavy defensive posture. Instantly, the monster summons a raging ring of fire around itself. Diving from the heavens, Ash plunges his blade directly toward the inferno's dead center. Roaring that it ends here, our main character locks onto the beast's core. Completely ignoring the scorching heat, his blade smashes into the Dullahan's armored chest. With a deafening crack, the monster's core crystal shatters into dust. Ash hits the ground gracefully while the towering giant stumbles violently backward. Barely standing, the undead warrior heavily leans on its massive blade. Ash sighs in disbelief, amazed he survived the chaotic clash with his final weapon. Without warning, the roaring hellfire on the giant's blade fizzles out completely. Shockingly, the monster flips its weapon, offering the hilt to our hero. Completely bewildered by this dramatic plot twist, Ash stares at the legendary loot. Is this final boss seriously giving up its main weapon? The headless titan simply stands there patiently, keeping its massive arm extended out. Stepping up to the plate, Ash firmly wraps his hands around the giant hilt. The headless beast dramatically throws its arms wide open. Gripping the heavy steel, Ash realizes this proud warrior is asking for an honorable execution. He calmly notes that against any normal human, that previous strike would have been instant death. Closing his eyes, he sighs that their epic adrenaline rush has concluded. Hoisting the massive blade, he pays total respect to the ultimate warrior. With one decisive, honorable swing, he cleaves straight through the monster's iron chest. Following the heavy impact, the ancient helmet completely disintegrates into nothingness. Finally defeated, the massive pitch-black armor crumbles into a pile of legendary loot. Standing victoriously over the wreckage, he lets out a massive sigh of relief. Cut to the next scene. Meanwhile, chaos erupts outside the Hunter Association. May and the local guild members are absolutely losing their minds over the impossible boss clear. Grinning like absolute maniacs, Ash and Ula casually celebrate their epic win. Walking inside, he casually asks his junior to stash the heavy loot. Panicking completely, May waves her arms, frantically screaming at them to freeze. She practically hyperventilates, explaining protocol demands, waiting for official backup. Snapping into boss mode, May orders everyone to instantly summon Sir Bale. Sweating nervously, Ash whispers to Ula that winning actually made things way too complicated. Bursting through the doors, Bale excitedly praises our protagonist. Caught totally off guard, Ash wonders if this big shot really rushed over for basic loot. Bale quickly drops some world-building logic. Elite boss drops require double verification from the authorities. Wasting absolutely zero time, the eager knight drags our hero to inspect the shiny new drops. Displayed proudly in the hall, the legendary armor set looks incredibly intimidating. An overly serious guild appraiser practically glues his monocle to the dark steel. Sweating bullets, the appraiser confirms this is absolutely the mythological armor from the rumors. But wait, lifting the heavy blade, Bale completely loses his cool. Out of nowhere, the weapon ignites with raging fire, exposing its true divine rarity. Both May and the appraiser literally scream out loud, absolutely flabbergasted by the insane RNG. Acting completely clueless, Ash asks what the big deal is. The nerds explain that this broken tier weapon generates power without using magic crystals. Bale excitedly declares this is the 5th one ever discovered in human history. Staring at our hero, he promises a mind-blowing national payout is coming. Suddenly, he assigns Ash and Ula the ultimate nightmare writing paperwork. The snooty official demands that this mythic gear be shipped straight to the royal lab. Tilting her head, Ula asks what kind of shady organization that is. Apparently, it is a top-secret royal facility that crafts ultra-rare artifacts. Suddenly, dropping the comedy, Bale locks eyes with Ash with dead serious intensity. He intensely interrogates our main character about the monster's true fighting style. Matching the heavy tension, Ash boldly declares there is zero doubt about the beast's identity. Dropping a massive lore bomb, he reveals that the terrifying undead was actually a legendary swordsman. Nodding knowingly, Bale admits the pitch-black aesthetic perfectly matches the terrifying warriors of ancient times. He wonders how the royal experts will react to this insane revelation. Ash sighs about never learning his rival's true name, while Bale intensely questions the boss's power level. Flashing a completely confident smirk, our hero confirms he was an absolute unit of the realm. Paperwork conquered at last, May praises their flawless dungeon clear. Stretching his aching muscles, Ash sighs, noticing the starry night sky. Completely drained of energy, he begs for a cozy in bed. Boom, a wild pack of hunters ambushes them, demanding a victory feast. Ash and Ulka just blink, utterly paralyzed by this chaotic vibe. Cut to the guild tavern, bursting with roaring laughter, endless meat, and overflowing ale. Mugs clash in the air as the entire pub cheers for their epic win. The guild dubs him Ash, the mighty Dullahan Slayer. Gulping his drink, Ash smirks, way cooler than his lame old exterminator title. Suddenly, a veteran asks for their official party name. Mid-sip, Ash pauses, his brain gears, turning to forge the ultimate squad title. A vision strikes him, showing the glorious statue of Janus, the ancient creator god. Memories of brutal training with his chaotic childhood squad flood back. Smirking softly, the perfect name locks into place. Catching Ulka's eye, he declares their destiny was written ages ago. She beams, nodding like an excited puppy. The drunk hunters tilt their heads, totally lost in this wholesome moment. Boom, they proudly declare themselves the Janus Squad. Meanwhile, a massive steam train screeches into a chaotic station. A mysterious figure steps onto the platform, ready to conquer this brand new concrete jungle. It is Mira, she cheers, throwing her arms up in total victory. Scanning the skyline, she brags about surviving the bumpy ride. Her eyes sparkle with pure greed as she gazes at the legendary first dungeon city. Fists clenched, she yells for Ash and Ulka to hold their horses. Strutting down the avenue, she dreams of forming the ultimate hunting trio. Her brain supplies glorious visions of swimming in gold coins, endless booze, and high-stakes gambling. She kicks open the doors to the legendary Hunter Association. Instantly, sweaty mercenaries start whispering about the cute new girl. A bunch of creeps slide over, offering to show the rookie the ropes with obvious ulterior motives. Swerving past the losers, she slams her hands on the front desk, demanding intel on her missing idiot friends. She aggressively asks for an Imperial hunter named Ash, who was definitely supposed to be here. But the terrified desk clerk awkwardly stutters that no such guy exists in their database. Wait, what? Mira remembers Ulka swearing this was the right city. Her brain shorts out. That sneaky fox lied to steal Ash all for herself. Unleashing a banshee shriek, she swears her millionaire dreams will not crumble today. Desperate, she interrogates the clerk, learning about 2 rival branches in distant towns. Trusting her gut, she locks onto the closest target. A terrible realization hits her wallet. Slapping down her measly copper coins, she begs for a cheap train ticket. The clerk shakes her head. Insufficient funds. Mira shatters like glass. Suddenly, that sleazy hunter from before whistles at her. Smirking, his gang offers to magically solve her little cash flow problem. The greasy boss casually slings an arm around her shoulder, whispering his creepy conditions for the loan. Mira exhales the heaviest sigh known to mankind. Bam. She unleashes a devastating right hook straight into the creep's jaw. He launches backward like a ragdoll. His lackeys just stand there, absolutely jaw-dropped. Zero hesitation, she vanishes from sight, reappearing to plant a flawless, gravity-defying kick right on lackey number 2's nose. The final thug screams bloody murder, charging in a blind rage. Mira cracks her knuckles, smirking like a true demon king. Wham! She buries a monstrous roundhouse kick deep into his gut. Dust settles over the trashed lobby. But the stubborn boss staggers up, spitting blood and roaring about deadly payback. He throws a sloppy haymaker, but Mira effortlessly glides right under it. His clumsy momentum leaves him completely exposed. Crack her heel snaps up in a picture-perfect high kick straight to his dome. Lights out. The boss crumples into a pathetic heap. Wiping her boots, she growls at the groaning pile to scram before she gets really mad. The poor desk clerk clutches her face, totally mind-blown by this absolute powerhouse of a girl. Trembling, she suggests Mira register as a rookie hunter for some fast cash. Ding, a light bulb ignites above Mira's head. Time to grind some dungeons, get stupidly rich, and hunt down that traitor Ulka. Fast forward 2 days. Ash and Ulka stroll peacefully through town. Suddenly, Ulka tugs his sleeve, a totally serious look on her face. Suddenly, Commander Bale appears. He mentions hauling that cursed armor toward the capital. Waving them closer, Bale drops a massive lore bomb. They uncovered a hidden ancient engraving slapped right onto the Dullahan's chest plate. That headless monster was actually a noble knight swallowed by the dungeon. Will I become a monster too? Ash gulped. Bale just shrugged, a total mystery. The Institute would analyze the loot, hoping for some epic gear. With a quick farewell, Bale promised the Association and Institute would drop their well-deserved loot soon. Waving goodbye, Ash and Ola locked eyes. Next stop, the Association to claim that sweet, sweet cash. Waiting at the guild counter, the payout finally arrived. Their jaws hit the floor, a staggering 5 million rows. Brains short-circuiting, they frantically crunched the numbers to split this unbelievable jackpot. May dropped another bomb. They were now exclusive hunters for the second dungeon city. Is that good? Ash blinked. VIP treatment, baby, she winked. Bouncing with excitement, she cheered them on to completely obliterate more monsters. That night, Ash sat in his shadowy room, head spinning from the chaos. Swirling a glass, he deeply pondered his unpredictable future. Completely alone, he helplessly wondered how to spend this absolute mountain of newfound wealth. Creak. His bedroom door slowly swung open. A mysterious figure slipped inside, padding barefoot toward his chair in the dark. "Senpai," a sweet, familiar voice whispered. Ash whipped around, only for Ola to tackle-hug him from behind. "Remember the special reward you promised," she purred. Face burning red, Ash frantically stuttered before nervously surrendering to her bold request. Patting the edge of the mattress, Ola playfully signaled him over, his brain completely flatlined in absolute panic. Trapped together on the sheets, they locked eyes. The silence was absolutely deafening, tension skyrocketing. With a gentle shove, she pinned him against the mattress. Straddling him, Ola locked onto his gaze with fierce, unstoppable determination. She flashed a dazzling smile, leaving Ash completely paralyzed. Grabbing his stiff arm, she cheerfully guided it into the perfect position. Snuggling tightly against his side, she claimed his arm as her ultimate pillow. From now on, she whispered, "This is my spot every single night." Totally dumbfounded, Ash just stared at her, his brain completely failing to reboot. "Wait, just this," he blurted out. "Ah." Is Senpai disappointed, she teased, admitting she promised to wait, but worried she was being too greedy. Smiling gently, he whispered that he was the unfair one. Stroking her soft hair, he pulled her deeply into a warm, protective embrace. Holding her tight, he confessed how incredibly precious she was, begging her to stay. Beaming, she promised to follow her senpai until the very end. Deeply moved, he swore an unbreakable vow to stand by her side forever. 1 week passed, but the adrenaline of battle still burned bright. Operating as the elite Janus squad, they fully embraced their thrilling hunter lifestyle. Ola yawned. "These 15th floor skeletons are total fodder now." Ash smirked. "Wonder what nightmares lurk on floor 16. She simply shrugged, completely clueless. Flashing a confident grin, he pointed ahead. "Only one way to find out. Let's advance." Stepping onto floor 16, their jaws dropped at the impossible sight. An endless, blazing desert wasteland stretched infinitely beyond the horizon. Mind completely blown, Ash stared in awe. Are we seriously still inside a dungeon? As Ola marveled at the dungeon's magic, a dark shadow swept over them. Ash glanced up. A colossal, terrifying beast blotted out the desert sun. Tearing through the sky, a smaller, vicious minion dive-bombed straight toward their unprotected heads. Combat instincts igniting, Ash shifted into his stance. Blasting off the sand, he delivered a devastating pinpoint strike straight into the beast's core. A sickening crunch echoed. The monster shrieked in absolute agony, plummeting violently back down to earth. But mid-fall, the beast unleashed a flurry of razor-sharp feathers. Like deadly javelins, they slammed deep into the baked desert soil. Instantly, the buried feathers started pulsing with a violently bright, ominous light. Boom, a massive shockwave erupted, forcing Ash into a desperate backflip. "It's magic," Ola screamed, realizing the monster was literally planting feather bombs. Stabilizing its flight, the demonic bird unleashed an ear-piercing screech, preparing another deadly assault. "Ola, fall back, it's diving again," Ash roared. But just then, an unknown voice echoed across the dunes. "No, this is our perfect opening." Ash blinked as a fierce, mysterious woman appeared beside him. Without a shred of fear, she exploded forward, unleashing an absolutely catastrophic blow upon the beasts. Boom! Her overwhelming strike connected perfectly, sending the entire flock flying like absolute ragdolls. Landing gracefully, she shifted stances to keep the brutal combo going. Completely awestruck, Ash and Ola could only watch this legendary warrior dominate the battlefield. "Keep pushing," she fiercely roared, commanding her entire squad to launch a brutal advance. Like phantoms, veteran hunters poured over the dunes to join the fray. Covering their flank, a master archer unleashed a screaming arrow into the sky. Bullseye. The projectile pierced a monster perfectly, though the remaining flock frantically scattered through the clouds. A second swordswoman carved through the wind beautifully, slicing a beast in half. Simultaneously, a rogue flickered from the shadows, burying his daggers into another target. Utterly mesmerized, Ash gasped out loud. Their combat teamwork is just unbelievably incredible. Sheathing her weapon, the squad leader approached with a familiar smirk. "Long time no see." Breathing a massive sigh of relief, Ash grinned back. "Thanks for the save, Tanya." Tanya suddenly invades his personal space. Ash's brain completely short-circuits. Ola's jaw drops to the floor. Tanya whispers seductively, saying the pleasure of saving him was entirely hers. Cue the jealous junior. Ola launches herself between them like a missile screaming bloody murder. Shoving Ash behind her, Ola clings to him for dear life. She glares daggers at Tanya. Just who is this homewrecker? Unfazed, Tanya flashes a dangerously predatory smile at the furious junior. Cut to the tavern. The tension at their table is suffocating. Introducing herself as Tanya Sandor, she politely greets the fuming girl. Ash drops a massive lore bomb. "She's the legendary guildmaster of the goddess's sword. Wasn't she supposed to be on vacation?" Tanya sighs dramatically. "If she hadn't been out of town, she would have soloed that boss." Ola scoffs at her big talk, but Ash quickly shuts that down. Plot twist: Tanya was one of the legendary heroes who defeated the Calamity Ape. She hunts strictly for the clout, but why does a noble know her precious Sunbae? The truth finally comes out. She has been trying to recruit him. Tanya's eyes gleam with obsession. She absolutely hasn't given up yet. Ash nervously admits her guild would make dungeon farming a total breeze. Then Tanya drops a nuclear bomb. She boldly offers him her body as a signing bonus. Ola practically explodes. Tanya playfully winks at her crazy offer, but a sweating Ash completely rejects it. Desperate to escape, Ash awkwardly flees to the bathroom. Tanya watches his retreat like a hungry wolf, slamming her mug down with a scary thud. Ola slams the table back. Eyes burning with jealous fury, she threatens to end Tanya if she touches her Sunbae. Tanya just bursts into villainous laughter. So the cute junior is super possessive. Tanya suddenly grabs Ola's chin. The ultimate plot twist. She doesn't just want Ash, she wants to claim Ola too. Ola screeches in absolute panic. Tanya confidently gestures to her guildmates, bragging about her legendary bedroom techniques. Her entire party instantly looks away, sweating bullets in awkward silence. Ola calls her a shameless pervert, but Tanya just smirks proudly. She uses every weapon in her arsenal to get exactly what she wants. Sparks fly across the table. Ola glares back, absolutely refusing to back down. She will never surrender. Her Sunbae challenge accepted. Tanya snaps her fingers with dramatic flair, kicking off the ultimate showdown. Waitresses rush in like pit crews, slamming down mountains of foaming alcohol. A hardcore drinking contest. Whoever stays conscious claims the prize. Ash returns to total chaos. His jaw drops as the girls chug giant mugs at lightning speed, creating an absolute spectacle. Slamming empty glasses, they roar for more. The tension is absolutely suffocating. Ash begs them to chill out, but Ola is already gone. Face-planting the table, she is completely knocked out cold. Tanya smirks, claiming he owes her a favor now, but Ash brutally shuts her down, telling her to keep dreaming. Instead of getting mad, she just laughs at his spicy attitude and playfully waves goodbye. The chaotic guild finally leaves. Cut to a sweet moment. Ash gives the wasted Ola a piggyback ride under the moonlight. Drunk and drooling, she sleep mumbles for her precious Sunbae to never let her go. Clinging to him like a koala, she fiercely claims him as hers. Ash just smiles, quietly walking them back to the inn. Morning arrives with a wild encounter. A crazy-eyed old man ambushes them, desperately demanding boss fight details. He aggressively shakes their hands, completely fanboying over the two legendary heroes. Invading Ash's personal space, he practically vibrates with excitement about the epic battle. He whips around to Ola next, firing off questions like a machine gun. He demands every single microscopic detail. The duo shares a bewildered look. Who the heck is this crazy stalker? Ash politely demands his identity. He strikes a dramatic pose. He's Edgar Baluna, the Genius Research Institute director. Talk about a big shot. Their jaws drop at his incredibly massive status. The boss's cursed armor triggered his mad scientist brain. He couldn't resist the urge and literally sprinted here to interrogate them. Ash sweats nervously, completely overwhelmed by the old man's chaotic aura. Pleasantries are over. Edgar suddenly whips out a mysterious artifact. He points his finger like a loaded weapon, channeling serious mana. Boom, his fingertip suddenly bursts into magical flames. The crazy researcher means absolute business. The duo stares in absolute awe at his raw magic, but this legendary mage just casually uses it to light his cigar. Puffing his smoke, he finally drops the mage reveal. Now he demands every single gritty detail about their clash with the Dullahan. He presses them for the absolute truth. Sinking into the plush sofa, the pair finally spills the epic saga of their grueling battle for survival. The gripping tale echoes through the room. Wrapping up the insane story, Ash swears that is every piece of intel they have. Digesting the crazy report, Edgar nods with a smirk. He praises their spectacular survival skills. Ash nervously pushes for his expert opinion. Crushing his cigar, Edgar drops a bombshell. Their wild theory was right. The monster was once human. Ash gasps in horror. How could a living, breathing human devolve into such a nightmare? Edgar smirks, revealing his own secret side quest down on the lethal 14th floor. The scene shifts to the pitch-black abyss where the Dullahan spawned. Edgar tweaks his flickering lantern, stepping deeper into the suffocating darkness of the dungeon. Suddenly, the faint glow catches something that makes even a grand mage freeze. Dozens of skeletal remains lay scattered. The fallen armor belonged to the kingdom's elite. Countless heroic knights were gruesomely fused right into the stone walls. Hearing this cursed tragedy, Ash and Ula feel their blood run absolutely cold. Jaw dropped, Ash asks if those were the Dullahan's fallen comrades. Edgar nods grimly. Locking eyes with them, he lectures on the true nature of magic. These chaotic dungeons are practically overflowing with raw, unfiltered mana. Leave a rusty blade in that dense energy long enough, it awakens into magic. By that insane logic, human flesh mutates into monstrous forms. The terrified duo sits frozen on the couch, their brains totally short-circuiting. Edgar flashes a maniacal grin. Does this mind-blowing revelation not get their blood pumping? Peeling back these forbidden secrets is his absolute obsession. Sweating heavily, Ash stammers, asking if this crazy guy solo raided the 14th floor. Edgar bursts into laughter. Of course not. He dragged his poor assistant and some mercenaries. Right on cue, a stressed-out kid bursts through the door. Edgar casually asks why Sergio is screaming, instantly annoying the overworked assistant. Sergio unleashes a massive rant. Why does this reckless mage always wander off alone? Chuckling at the absolute chaos, Bale sighs. Edgar is a total maniac when dungeons are involved. Ash casually mentions he just learned the cheat code for crafting magic weapons. Bale instantly panics, begging them to zip their lips forever. Edgar smirks at Bale. The fun is over. It is time to move forward. Bale orders the rookies back to guild headquarters tomorrow morning. Ash and Ula just blink at each other, giant question marks floating above their totally confused heads. Morning arrives, and our confused duo reports back to the bustling Hunters Association. They awkwardly wait as May shuffles through endless paperwork. The heavy doors creak open, and Ash eagerly checks if Bale finally showed up. Instead, a fabulous blonde dude practically sparkles into the room. Enter Kyle, the ridiculously flashy commander of the legendary Golden Knights. His blinding aura is quickly overshadowed by a walking mountain of beef. It is Talon, the massive guild master of Muscle Encounter. Right behind the meathead strolls Tanya, the fierce captain of the Goddess Sword Guild. Ash sweat drops, asking if Bale really summoned all these heavyweights. Tanya smirks, realizing the city's entire top-tier roster is crammed into one room. Ula flares up, shooting death glares at her ultimate rival. Edgar finally strolls in, with Bale clapping his hands to start the show. Kyle demands to know why this mega crossover event is happening. Unrolling a massive map, Edgar drops the lore. Named boss monsters are spawning way too fast, like that brutal red ape and the terrifying Dullahan. Tapping the map, he notes these freakish nightmares only spawn in the second dungeon. Eyes burning with resolve, he officially declares a massive, full-scale raid. That is exactly why every single powerhouse was summoned today. He formally drafts these elite warriors for the most suicidal dungeon dive ever attempted. The sheer scale of this request leaves every arrogant guildmaster completely speechless. Stepping up, Bale orders them to escort the Royal Knights straight into the abyss. Someone gasps, asking if they are actually breaching the legendary 20th floor. May chimes in, confirming the guild is already hoarding infinite supplies for this madness. Raising her hand, Tanya asks if this insane raid is actually mandatory. Bale slams his fist down. Absolutely mandatory. This is a direct royal decree from the Queen herself. A cocky hunter laughs. With this Avengers-level squad clearing, it will be an absolute walk in the park. Bale shoots down that arrogance instantly. Do not underestimate the abyss. He demands to know their deepest floor records. Smirking, Tanya flexes her 18th floor record, while the beefcakes claim 17. Sweating buckets, Ash shyly admits he and Ula are stuck grinding on floor 16. Bale's expression darkens, warning that the 19th floor holds true despair. He drops a bombshell. Entire elite squads vanish there. Horrified, Tanya gasps, asking if even the magically armed Royal Knights fell to this madness. Bale nods grimly. An apex predator rules there, dwarfing all other threats. He names the nightmare the Lizard King. Meanwhile, Ash and Ula enjoy a peaceful cafe date. Beaming brightly, Ula playfully offers a strawberry, teasingly telling her senior to say, "Ah." Completely flustered, Ash nervously stares at the sweet fruit hovering before his face. She pushes closer with a dazzling smile. Suddenly, she pops it into his mouth, leaving him completely caught off guard by the bold attack. He mumbles that it tastes amazing, making Ula's heart absolutely flutter with pure joy. Suddenly, street noise breaks the romantic tension. Armored knights ride past, aggressively escorting heavy investigation supplies through town. Observing the heavy cargo, Ash notes the kingdom's serious preparation for the upcoming raid. Ula nervously questions their safety, but Ash confidently reassures her this kingdom feels different. Shifting gears, she curiously asks about their massive savings. Sipping his drink, Ash casually lists out their boring adult expenses like endless kingdom taxes. Then he casually drops a bomb, suggesting they buy a cozy house with a yard. Eyes sparkling, Ula dreams of massive weapon storage. Smiling warmly, Ash adds she might finally want her own private bedroom. Completely baffled, she rejects the solo room idea. Blushing fiercely, she shouts it should be their romantic love nest. Catching her intense blush, Ash nervously asks if she hates the idea, but she panics. Beaming brightly, she confesses she absolutely loves it. Fired up, they vow to crush this dungeon raid immediately. Raid day arrives, with elite forces swarming the plaza. Excited mercenaries wildly point at the legendary arriving guilds. The crowd goes wild for Tanya's elite squad, the legendary Sword of the Goddess. Next, Kyle's flashy Golden Knights strut in. Meanwhile, Talon's insanely muscular squad flexes, stealing the entire spotlight. Finally, whispers erupt as the last heavy hitters arrive. Dripping with confidence, Ash and Ula proudly march in with Team Janus. Awestruck hunters confidently declare this stacked alliance will absolutely crush the upcoming dungeon. But an arrogant knight loudly mocks the mercenary trash. Instantly, deadly glares lock onto him, demanding he repeat that insult. Veins popping, Talon growls that disrespect means war. Ula nervously grabs Ash, who is already stepping forward to unleash some humble pie. Ash coldly confronts the snobs, mocking their ignorance of real blood-soaked battlefield survival. Flipping his tone, Ash sighs, reminding the hotheads they are supposedly united for this deadly raid. The arrogant knight sneers, claiming Ash's past victories were just pure, pathetic, dumb luck. Enraged mercenaries roar for a duel. Smirking viciously, the knight draws his gleaming blade, eager to draw peasant blood. Without warning, the coward launches a lethal ambush directly at Ash's head. Ash instantly vanishes, dodging the steel before brutally burying his knee into his gut. Coughing, the arrogant noble admits Ash actually possesses terrifying speed. The furious noble violently slashes, but Ash effortlessly evades. Eyes glowing, Ash finally activates a combat skill. With lightning speed, his devastating palm strike completely flattens the arrogant noble. Crashing heavily into the dirt, the supposedly elite knight lies there completely dazed and humiliated. Furious at the disgrace, another noble pulls out a glowing mana stone. Jamming it into his hilt, he aggressively triggers the weapon's terrifying magical aura. Both humiliated knights ignite their auras for a lethal jump. Narrowing his eyes, Ash coldly declares, "Playtime is officially over." Suddenly, an earth-shattering roar commands everyone to freeze. The overwhelming killing intent instantly paralyzes the two aggressive knights. A fierce veteran stomps over, viciously scolding the brats for starting a pathetic turf war. He ruthlessly smacks both their helmets, calling them absolute national embarrassments. Sighing deeply, Bale apologizes to Ash for the circus. He then reveals his true identity, Marquise Roy Orlano, the Supreme Knight Captain. He is the kingdom's absolute peak strength, ranking among the legendary 10 Master Swordsmen. Shockwaves ripple through the crowd at the living legend's presence. The humble Marquis apologizes for the trashy behavior, which the awestruck hunters quickly brush off. Orlano passionately declares this dangerous expedition is the Queen's ultimate long-awaited royal decree. Blood boiling with hype, the mercenaries roar their absolute loyalty. Laughing loudly, the Marquis heavily pats Ash, praising his legendary combat instincts. With his cape billowing majestically, the veteran marches straight toward the abyss. Ash smirks, deeply respecting the old monster's aura. Drawing his blade, Bale furiously roars for the massive vanguard to finally advance. Deep inside Floor 14, the vanguard marches into the pitch-black abyss, while the support team struggles with the heavy loot wagons in the rear. Bringing up the rear, Ash and his chaotic little squad tag along with the stragglers. Floor 16 should be a total breeze, he jinxes. Instantly, a frantic voice echoes through the cavern, screaming Ash and Ula's names like a maniac. Ash tilts his head, totally baffled. Who on earth is screeching my name right now? Sir Edgar sprints over, waving his arms wildly. Guys, we have a massive disaster. Sir Edgar, the duo gasps, completely caught off guard. Without explaining, he practically drags them all the way back to his supposedly epic discovery. The dead knight was exactly here, he insists, pointing at Bear Rock. His jaw drops. The spooky skeletons have literally vanished into thin air. Are you sure this is the spot? Ula sweat drops. Edgar nods like an absolute madman. Okay, what kind of ghost story is this? Ash groans. Edgar's eyes gleam. It means this cursed dungeon is actually shifting its own layout. Ula shudders in pure horror. Creepy moving walls. Hard pass on that magic trick. Isn't dungeon ecology absolutely fascinating? Edgar geeks out. Moving on, the raid marches straight into the blistering sandy wasteland of Floor 16. Boom, a massive explosion rocks the desert, scaring the living daylights out of everyone. A savage flock of aerial beasts dive bombs them. Enemy ambush from above, a commander roars, drawing cold steel. Form up and protect the squishies. One nasty bird climbs high, raining down a barrage of highly explosive murder feathers. Are you kidding me with this massive magic? A frantic hunter screams, panic rolling. Time to test our epic combo. Ash smirks, spotting a blind spot. Ula locks on, unleashing a crackling energy arrow straight into the sky. Bullseye. The glowing shaft impales a flying freak, making it shriek in absolute feather-ruffling agony. The grounded turkey plummets toward the earth, and Ash is already winding up his stance. Timber Ash roars, swinging his heavy blade with blinding speed. One clean, devastating slash, and the monster is officially sliced into lunch meat. The veteran hunters cheer from the sidelines. Now that is some flashy tag team choreography. Heck yeah, our master plan was flawless. Ula pumps her fist. Ash grips his sword, hyped. Don't lose momentum, let's clear them out. Once the dust settles, Commander Bale claps his hands. Flawless victory, people. Threat eliminated. Bale slaps a heavy hand on Ash's shoulder. Killer moves back there, kid. The imposing Marquis approaches, demanding the brave rookies' names. Snapping to attention, they proudly introduce themselves as Ash and Ula of Team Janus. The noble chuckles, genuinely impressed. I shall carve those names into my memory. He sweeps away like a boss, leaving them in the dust. Holy cow, that was intimidating, Ash exhales. Relax, the Marquis completely liked you, Bale laughs. Lord Orlano is a real one. He only respects pure skill, not fancy titles. Grinning widely, Bale adds, "Scouting you kids was an absolute jackpot." Pumping his fist, he bellows, "Next stop the terrifying floor 17. Ash gulps, sweat beading on his forehead. "We are entering completely uncharted territory now." Tanya stalks over, killing the mood instantly. "Wipe those silly grins off. The beasts down here are on a completely different power scale." Floor 17. The squad trudges into a gloomy, foul-smelling swamp straight from an absolute nightmare. "Watch out for the bottomless mud traps," Tanya barks. Ula draws her bow nervously, eyeing the bubbling swamp. Staring at the sinister water ripples, Ash sighs. "Maybe our nerdy scholar should have stayed upstairs." Splash. A gigantic, ugly croc beast erupts from the depths. The local welcoming committee, Ash yells, drawing his steel. He lunges fearlessly, delivering a brutal overhead smash straight to the monster's ugly dome. Clang. The blade bounces off its absurdly thick hide. "Are you kidding me? 0 damage?" He panics. Towering over them, the beast reveals its true terrifying form. A legendary dungeon, Lizardman. "Those scales are literal iron armor," Tanya screams. Suddenly, the beast unleashes a guttural roar echoing through the murky waters. Dozens of menacing reptilian eyes surface all around them. "Oh crap, it just summoned the entire neighborhood," Ash gulps. Bale holds his ground, barking orders. "Magic archers, knock your arrows and aim. Unleash hell, fire," he roars with absolute authority. A volley of brilliant magical arrows rains down on the scaly horde. But the magic shafts just ping off their ridiculous armor like harmless little toothpicks. Even the magic attacks are doing absolutely nothing, Ash despairs. Surrounded by the advancing mutants, the raid team braces for a brutal bloodbath. These freaks are literally built like tanks, a vanguard knight, curses, sweating profusely. Out of nowhere, a beast lunges like a coiled spring chomp. Its massive jaws clamp mercilessly onto a terrified knight. A blood-curdling scream echoes. The monstrous beast absolutely shreds the poor knight. Boom, he crashes down. That overgrown gecko snags his ankle, dragging him into the murky depths for a watery grave. "Don't you dare die on me," Ash yells, sprinting like a madman. Trusting Tanya's intel, he rockets forward, locking onto the scaly freak's jugular. The beast snaps its ugly jaws, but Ash is faster. With dead-on accuracy, his blade sinks deep into the monster's fleshy neck. Game over. The gurgling lizard sinks into the muck. Hauling the battered soldier up, Ash frantically checks if he is still breathing. "Get a healer over here, stat," he roars to the backline. Coughing up swamp water, the knight marvels at their insane strength. Ash just smirks, crouching low as his aura flares for round 2. Time for payback. The entire elite vanguard surges forward like a tidal wave. The guildmasters clash head-on with the scaly swarm. Locking eyes with a massive brute, Ash drops into a battle stance for a deadly showdown. Chomp. The beast lunges with razor-sharp teeth, but our boy straight-up wrestles its jaws apart. Talk about an overpowered mob, tanky armor, and ridiculous physical damage. "Fall back, you fools," the Marquis barks from the rear. Catching the signal, Ash smoothly disengages, ready to tactical retreat out of there. Enter the magic carry. Edgar raises his palm, channeling catastrophic elemental mana. Bam! A blinding thunderstorm erupts across the bog. The high-voltage lightning strikes the puddle, deep-frying every single amphibian freak in sight. Total annihilation. The roasted reptiles float belly up in the sizzling swamp. Note to self, never piss off a wizard, Ash sweats. Panting heavily, Edgar groans that spamming ultimate skills completely drains his mana pool. The Marquis gives a stiff nod. 0 casualties is our only acceptable outcome. Hitting the next checkpoint, Bale hypes up floor 18. The Marquis immediately benches all support staff, eggheads, and injured deadweight. Bale relays the harsh truth. Only the absolute heavy hitters are moving forward. Wearing a face like stone, the big boss starts drafting his suicide squad. Wait, what? Ash nearly drops his jaw hearing his crew made the cut. Bale chimes in, drafting the Goddess Sword and Janus squads to back up the Royal Knights. Turns out, the Marquis was low-key stalking their epic combat performance earlier. The leftover guildmates cheer him on like fanboys. Flashing a confident grin, our boy accepts the carry role and steps into the unknown. Welcome to level 18. An insanely massive, soggy emerald pasture stretches forever. Less swamp, more sloppy golf course, Ash quips, scanning the turf. "What's the spawn rate here?" Tanya quickly warns about a heavily upgraded reptile variant. Suddenly, she points her finger dead ahead. "Guys, you might want to see this." Tribal huts, weapon racks. A massive, fully functioning reptile metropolis sits right in the middle of the dungeon. Mind blown. These are not mindless mobs, they actually have a civilized society. Shields up, spears locked, the tribal army gets into flawless battle formations. "Those are totally trained infantry," Tanya sweats. The Marquis just cracks his knuckles. No detours. We push through. It is a pure deathmatch to the next zone. Bale Bench warms Ash's squad, ordering them to watch and learn from the pros. Magic Lancers unleash hell. The Marquis roars. The Royal Vanguard collides violently with the scaly frontline in a symphony of destruction. Steel sings against scales as the Kingdom elites dive into the meat grinder. Wait, its neck is ballooning like a toad. Whoosh. The freak literally spits a blazing fireball straight at a vanguard. Clang. The defender tanks the blast, skidding backward from the insane kinetic force. Ash totally bugs out. Did that gecko just cast magic? Holy smokes, even after parrying the knight's heavy metal shield literally starts turning to liquid. Our royal blacksmiths have leveled up. The Marquis smirks. At least it tanked the first shot. Keep up the pressure, he commands, finally stepping onto the battlefield himself. Instantly, 3 elite gecko warriors pounce, aiming for his blind spots. The Marquis draws his blade. A terrifying, suffocating aura explodes around him. /1 casual swing deletes all 3 monsters from existence, but the suicidal reptilian horde keeps rushing his position blindly. He calmly repositions his greatsword eyes completely devoid of fear as the wave approaches. A whirlwind of pure destruction. He sweeps the entire mob away like pesky flies, sweating bullets. Ash and Ula can only gawk at his busted stats. The Supreme Swordmaster still has his edge. Tanya chuckles, completely starstruck by the display. That is one of the 10 great blades for you Bale fanboys hard. Watching this epic carry, Ash's gamer blood boils with the urge to jump in. Hyped by their overpowered boss, the Royal Knights scream their battle cries, charging ahead. Bale roars, his blade flashing as he instantly slashes a lizardman to pieces. Out of nowhere, Ash blitzes forward, decapitating a beast aimed at a hunter. Furious Bale barks, "I told you to stay back and watch." But Ash just smirks. "Come on, don't be like that, old man. We aren't just here to spectate," Ula declares, drawing her weapon. Fired up, the rest of the hunters unleash their combat arts. Bale grins from ear to ear. These hunters are seriously built different. "Ash, get in here," Bale shouts. "Let us finish this bloodbath once and for all." Hoisting his sword high, the Marquis proudly declares total victory. The horde is wiped out. Silence falls as they inspect the slaughtered lizardmen. Suddenly, Ash crouches beside a fallen monster, his eyes locking onto a bizarre detail. Kneeling in the dirt, he points at the corpse. "What the heck is this?" Ula rushes over, totally confused. "Look at this crimson blood," Ash murmurs. "I have never seen monsters bleed red." Edgar suddenly pops up behind them. "I knew you would spot that. Normal monsters bleed toxic purple sludge," he explains with absolute glee. Plus, typical dungeon monster corpses melt into gross liquid almost instantly. But Tanya's previous sample stayed perfectly preserved. Edgar drops the bomb. "This bizarre red blood is completely toxin-free. I must unravel this mystery before I die," Edgar vows. Pushing deeper into the village, they start raiding the lizardman camp. Inside, they discover perfectly woven grass beds right next to creepy insect grubs. They even find a full-blown blacksmithing workshop. Scanning the area, Edgar gasps. Their intelligence level is absolutely staggering. Trembling with pure nerd excitement, he geeks out over these fascinating mutated beasts. Ash and Ula burst out laughing at the crazy old researcher. Suddenly, Bale marches over wearing a dead serious expression. Shoving a stunning blade toward Ash, Bale commands, "Take this before we plunge any deeper." Ash's jaw drops. "Wait, is this the ancient magic sword?" He hesitates, but Bale insists he will desperately need it for the brutal 19th floor. The Marquis locks eyes with him. Everything so far was just a warm-up for hell. A confident smirk spreads across Ash's face. "Understood. I am born ready for this." Stepping onto floor 19, a massive green plane stretches out beneath a fake blue sky. Up ahead, a colossal lizardman fortress looms. Endless ranks of scaled soldiers stand in perfect formation, thirsting for blood. Sweating slightly, Ash scans the terrifying horde. There has to be at least 200. The monsters hiss in eerie synchronization, locking into battle formations. Suddenly, all eyes snap toward the mammoth command tent in the center. From the pitch-black shadows, a bone-chilling growl violently shakes the very earth beneath their feet. A gargantuan crimson-scaled behemoth steps into the light, dragging a massive battle axe. Roar. The monster's sheer killing intent suffocates the battlefield. The knights freeze in pure terror. It's the dragon-blooded Lizard King. Ash's gaze turns ice-cold. He tightens his grip, completely locked in for an epic showdown. Drawing his magic blade, a crazy grin forms. "Now that guy looks insanely strong." "Senpai, you are smiling like a total battle junkie," Ula points out. Blushing, Ash coughs to hide his undeniable hype. Letting out another deafening shockwave of a roar, the boss asserts its absolute dominance. Boom! The giant launches itself at the front line, swinging its colossal axe like a grim reaper. The knights scramble to survive. They cross their magical blades to parry, but the sheer kinetic force crushes their defenses. Even their combined aura is nothing against the king's monstrous brute strength. Like broken toys, the elite knights are blasted backward. One swing obliterated the vanguard. This boss is in a league of its own. To make matters worse, the mob of lesser lizardmen swarms the surviving knights. Bale clenches his teeth. "I will take the head of the snake," the Marquis bellows, charging straight at the raid boss. The Lizard King swings the executioner axe, but Marquis Bale meets it head-on. Clang. Pure shockwaves erupt. Masterfully redirecting the lethal momentum, the Marquis deflects the giant blade with pinpoint precision. Slash. He unleashes a blinding crescent of green aura, throwing the king off balance. Knight Roy Orlano instantly follows up. Back in the chaos, Ash and Ula are desperately holding off the swarming lizardman horde. "Damn it, I want the boss," Ash whines, slicing enemies. "But there are too many trash mobs. We must leave the king to the knights." Side by side, the ultimate Sunbae Kuhai duo explode into action, unleashing pure havoc on the monster army. Out of nowhere, twin lizardmen with blazing throats block their path. Lethal fireballs erupt, but our duo effortlessly dodges, keeping their deadly momentum alive. Ash unleashes his magic blade, carving through multiple beasts in one epic sweep. Planting his feet, he locks onto his next unfortunate victim. A massive fireball hurtles straight for his face. Ash casually sidesteps, executes the monster, and hilariously hoists its lifeless body as a meat shield. Bam! With a devastating roundhouse kick, he launches the scaly corpse across the battlefield. Gripping his glowing blade, his aura flares as he zeroes in on the surviving mob. Slash! Another lizardman is ruthlessly sliced completely in two, but as the halves hit the dirt, dozens more completely encircle our overpowered hero. Staring into the bloodthirsty crowd, he realizes this monster wave is practically infinite. Sword in hand, Ash quickly brainstorms a backup plan. Meanwhile, the towering Lizard King readies its massive battle axe against Marquis Orlano. Clang! The terrifying beast brings down a bone-crushing strike. Parrying the devastating blow, Roy desperately roars that surrender is not an option. But the monstrous sheer strength forces him backward, his boots violently skidding across the earth. The crushing physical pressure makes his legs tremble. He is barely standing. Collapsing to his knees, the Marquis erupts into a violent coughing fit. Gripping his aching chest, he curses his ridiculously bad timing. The smug boss monster merely glares down at its prey. From afar, Ash screams the old man's name, but Ula warns they are completely blocked off. Catching sight of the heavy spear strapped to his back, a crazy idea strikes Ash. He commands Ula to unleash her entire explosive payload. With a confident smirk, she aggressively knocks several magically enhanced arrows onto her bowstring. Vaulting into the air, she unleashes a storm of arrows. Boom! The projectiles nail the Lizard King dead center, swallowing the giant beast in roaring flames. Screaming for the monster to eat this, Ash channels his raw power and violently chucks the heavy spear. Using the fiery smokescreen, the projectile rips through the air, scoring an absolute bullseye right on the giant boss. K.A. boom. The weapon detonates against its thick scales. But wait, the Lizard King just slowly turns its head. 0 damage taken. Panicking Ula screams that the attack was a complete dud. Ash just smirks. Exactly according to plan. He points out these scaly freaks are pretty smart. Curling his finger with peak main character arrogance, he actively dares the raid boss to fight him. The disrespectful gesture perfectly reflects in the beast's cold eyes. Aggro successfully pulled. Absolutely furious, the giant lizard charges like a runaway freight train. Ash grins, declaring they just reeled in the ultimate catch. Off-screen, Sir Edgar props up the grateful Marquis. Catching his breath, Roy declares this is their golden window for a legendary sneak attack. Closing the distance instantly, the boss swings its monstrous axe straight for Ash's head. Ash barely blocks with his blade. His arms tremble as a terrifying truth hits him. His magic sword cannot pierce this monster's absurd defense. Locking eyes with his prey, the beast snaps its massive jaws. Ash shouts a frantic warning, barely evading a lethal horizontal slash. Using its brutal momentum, the raid boss violently spins, winding up for another catastrophic strike. Smash. The weapon's hilt slams into Ash, launching him like a ragdoll. Scrambling back to his feet, he hastily analyzes the dire battlefield. Suddenly, a familiar battle cry echoes out. Ash quickly snaps his head around. Ordering Ash back, Sir Edgar channels blistering mana into a high-tier fire spell. Eyes burning with resolve, he roars that playtime is over. A blistering inferno blasts right into the Lizard King. The devastating arcane attack triggers an absolute nuke of an explosion. Roy cheekily asks the beast how that tasted. But as the thick smoke clears, impossible. The monstrous king hasn't even moved an inch. Exhausted on the dirt, Sir Edgar groans in absolute despair. His ultimate spell was totally useless. Exploiting the blind spot, Ash dramatically vaults onto the boss's massive back. Pouring every ounce of aura into his blade, he ruthlessly stabs its thick neck. Violently thrown down, Ash gets completely pinned, while the giant beast unleashes a terrifying victory roar. Glancing back, absolute dread hits him. His trusty magic sword is completely shattered. Roaring at Ash, Roy desperately tosses his personal legendary blade. Snatching the flying weapon midair, Ash locks in for a desperate counter. From afar, Roy screams that this legendary blade cuts like the very wind. Lowering his stance, our hero locks onto the boss. The Marquis wildly barks at him to split that overgrown gecko right down the middle. Unleashing a soul-shaking war cry, Ash executes the ultimate strike. The wind-infused blade perfectly cleaves the towering Lizard King completely in half, from scalp to tail. The entire chaotic battlefield freezes, completely mesmerized by the sheer devastation of that godly attack. Witnessing the epic clear-battered knights and hunters absolutely lose their minds, cheering Roy majestically declares the tyrant dead, triggering one final glorious offensive push. Riding that hyped momentum, Bale furiously rallies the troops, spearheading the ultimate mop-up operation. Panting on the blood-soaked earth, Ash casually smiles. They actually wiped the entire monster wave. Suddenly, Ula hilariously tackles him in a giant hug, screaming how incredible her man is. Watching the cute fluff, Roy just chuckles, deeply envious of youthful romance. Baron Bale steps up, wondering if Ash hails from their kingdom. Marquis Roy Orlano sighs. The kid is a discharged Imperial Knight, an absolute waste of brilliant talent. Bale's jaw drops. Is the Marquis seriously planning to recruit him? Smirking, Roy reveals his grand master plan. He is going to adopt the boy and drag him into the Order. Utterly baffled, Bale asks if he would seriously go to such crazy lengths, just for Ash. The Marquis chuckles, understanding the complex balance of power. He will not force the kid's hand. However, he knows one undeniable truth. Absolute talent will always claw its way to the top. Meanwhile, Sergio sprints toward Sir Edgar, breathless with crazy news from the living quarters. Arriving on the scene, the entire team stares in pure disbelief. Sitting right there is a nest holding 3 massive lizard eggs. Mind blown. Sergio points out that lizardmen actually lay eggs, totally breaking standard monster logic. Until now, everyone thought dungeon monsters just naturally spawned out of thin air. Sir Edgar analyzes the bizarre sight. This discovery could literally rewrite history. Back at the main camp, Roy commands everyone to treat the wounded first. Striding over, Ash casually taps the Marquis for a quick chat. Tossing the borrowed sword back, Ash gives his thanks. That legendary blade totally saved his hide. Roy praises the epic strike, but Ash raises a sharp eyebrow. He definitely saw the old man clutching his chest earlier. Sighing heavily, Roy confesses he has a faulty heart that leaves him completely paralyzed sometimes. He chuckles at the irony of a sick captain, but Ash immediately scolds his careless attitude. Plunking down next to the Marquis, Ash grabs a healing potion, nodding his thanks to the person handing it over. Roy suddenly asks if Ash holds a grudge against nobles. Ash bluntly confirms his messy past. Smirking, Roy warns that his heroic deeds will soon spark a massive tsunami of marriage proposals. Gulping down the potion, Ash pauses as the Marquis turns dead serious, needing to confirm one crucial detail. Staring intensely, Roy drops the ultimate question. Does Ash want to be a high-class noble or a monster hunter? The heavy question hangs in the air as Ash silently stares back. Finally breaking the tension, Ash admits he fully grasps the massive honor behind this incredible offer. Flashing back to Ula, he gently smiles and reveals his heart is already taken. He could never stomach a forced political marriage arranged by an old guy. Roy raises an eyebrow. Does he really stand by that bold choice, especially since this kingdom allows polygamy? Briefly remembering Rafi, Ash firmly shakes his head. He would much rather dodge a totally loveless marriage. Changing gears, the Marquis asks what about becoming a noble through his own merit. Ash bursts into laughter. He is definitely built for swinging swords, not playing boring political games. Respecting the bold rejection, Roy simply nods in agreement, leaving Ash blinking in absolute shock. He declares he refuses to let such an absolute powerhouse get swallowed by noble politics. He then casually tosses Ash a dagger engraved with his prestigious family crest. This shiny blade is absolute proof of House Orlano's ironclad protection. Catching Ash's hesitant look, Roy orders him to take it as a solid thank you for his epic carry. Gripping the old man's hand, Ash accepts the noble token, promising to fully live up to expectations. Deep below, the raid party marches down the gloomy stairs, finally hitting the notorious 20th floor. Stepping up to a massive, ominous door, they brace themselves to push forward. Pushing inside, Bale shivers at the pitch-black void. This eerie, isolated place does not even have a fake sky. Squinting at the stone walls, Ash spots a bizarre, glowing script completely different from the standard continental alphabet he knows. Suddenly, a nerdy young scholar scampers over to inspect the glowing carvings. Adjusting her glasses, she gasps, identifying it as an incredibly rare ancient text. Ash tilts his head. Is this straight out of the age of fairy tales and forgotten gods? Scribbling furiously, she declares this is hard proof that an ancient super-civilization actually existed. But when Ash excitedly asks for a translation, she awkwardly sweats and admits she cannot read a single word. Leaving the party totally dumbfounded, she confesses the language is completely undeciphered. Chuckling, Ash asks if geeking out over lost civilizations is why she chose the scholar life. But without warning, crack. The fragile stone floor right beneath her boots suddenly shatters entirely. The ground completely caves in. The clumsy scholar plunges straight into the pitch-black abyss below. Terrified out of her mind, she screams for somebody to save her. Roaring her name, Ash launches himself off the edge, diving to shove her away from the falling debris. Tumbling through the void, they crash violently onto the rubble. Groaning in the dust, Ash quickly checks if she is hurt. Shaking, she tearfully thanks the hero for shielding her. Hearing panicked shouts from above, Ash roars back that they survived the fall. Glancing at the bizarre metallic structure around them, he realizes they are trapped completely between the dungeon floors. Peering over the crumbling ledge, a panicked Sir Edgar desperately yells down, asking if his favorite swordsman is safe. Shouting up the hole, the scholar squeals that they just crashed into a giant artifact. Sir Edgar instantly rappels down the rope as she points at the glowing monolith. Reunited in the dark, the trio stares up at the colossal, otherworldly machine. Ash assumes it is just another magical tool, but the director immediately shuts that theory down. Smiling confidently, Sir Edgar steps right up and instantly activates the strange ancient mechanism. Up on the 20th floor, the entire dungeon begins to violently tremble. A blinding flash of light erupts out of nowhere, completely startling Bale, Roy, and Ulria. As the blinding light finally fades, their jaws hit the floor. The dungeon is gone, replaced by an insanely massive modern room. Down below, Sir Edgar realizes the strange artifact was actually a hidden transport device. Looking around the weirdly modern architecture, Ash mutters that this literally looks like a movie theater entrance. Right before their eyes, a glowing panel revealed bizarre animal drawings and ancient cryptic runes. He taps the screen, gasping as the images spring to life. His hand passes right through the magical projection. Absolute sorcery. This artwork feels incredibly off, and Ula squints at the creepily smiling animals. Ash points at the glowing box while Edgar geeks out over its function. This ancient energy source actually lit up the entire floor. Eyes burning with absolute certainty, the scholar declares his legendary hypothesis is officially proven. The big reveal drops. These chaotic dungeons, they are absolutely not natural phenomena. They are artificial facilities built by an ancient civilization. He recounts the old myth divine beings and their servants forging a peaceful world. But peace never lasts. A terrifying monster of absolute calamity suddenly emerged to destroy everything. The servants fought back with legendary magic swords, but were completely and utterly crushed. With no other choice, the divine beings sacrificed their very lives to seal the ultimate evil. Their overwhelming power shattered into starlight, raining down upon the earth. From those divine sparks, the very first humans were miraculously born. Wrapping up his dramatic lore drop, the scholar claims this is humanity's true origin story. Ash claps in realization. That is literally the most famous fairy tale on the entire continent. But Sir Edgar drops his smile. He doesn't believe in gods. Why would an all-powerful creator die just to stop one monster? He casually accuses the powerful Church of the Divine of completely making up the narrative. Ash completely freezes. The Church of the Divine. They are the kingdom of Arlen's religion, holding massive power in the north. Edgar smirks, claiming they totally twisted ancient history just to fit their own holy doctrine. But Ula quickly interrupts. Those legendary magic swords from the myth actually exist in reality. Edgar totally agrees. The myth overlaps with reality, proving a ridiculously advanced civilization existed. But they were never gods. The mind-blowing conclusion, those ancient creators were just normal humans, exactly like them. Ash and Ula's jaws drop at the insane possibility, but Edgar laughs it off as just his team's main working hypothesis. Suddenly, Sergio bursts onto the scene aggressively, shouting for them to drop the dangerous topic. Completely unfazed, Edgar casually asks what's wrong while Ula dramatically rolls her eyes. Back to business. What exactly is a dungeon? According to his brilliant theory, this place is just an ancient building. Just like building a massive granary, these insane monster labyrinths were artificially constructed. He points at a newly spawned door, claiming the engineering is identical. To prove it, poor Roy becomes the guinea pig. Stepping inside, Roy nervously sweats, wondering what kind of sketchy trap room this is. Cramped inside, Sir Edgar cheerfully announces the grand experiment. He recklessly smashes a glowing button, activating the room's hidden mechanics. Slam. The steel door shuts, abandoning Ash and Ula outside. Ash frantically pushes, but the magical lock will not budge. Suddenly, the room shoots upward with terrifying speed, knocking the remaining duo right to the floor. Ding. A magical light changes color inside the mysterious box. The doors slide open, revealing an entirely different, unexplored hallway. And standing right there to greet them, fully armored knights of the kingdom. Talk about a crazy plot twist. Flashing back to the blueprints, Ash's mind is blown. This whole death trap really is artificial. He screams that they just skipped 3 entire floors. Ula is totally stunned, while Sir Edgar wears a smug "I told you so" grin. Roy finally gets it. The ancients literally built a magic elevator to skip through dungeon floors. Edgar smirks. This proves his wild theory dungeons were engineered for one very specific purpose. Ash and Ula desperately ask what that ultimate purpose is. But Edgar just shrugs, proudly admitting he has absolutely zero idea. Trembling with rage, Roy asks if Edgar knew this was a transport device. With the exact same blank smile, Edgar says nope. Roy totally loses it. He violently shakes Edgar by the shoulders, screaming at his suicidal recklessness. He cries that Edgar's toxic curiosity always gets them killed, making the director burst into hysterics. Ding! The magical elevator returns for Ash and Ula. They nervously step out, finally reuniting with the main party on the 20th floor. Sergio storms over, fiercely scolding Edgar for pulling a disappearing act. Ula just stares at the magic box, realizing this elevator is a massive cheat code. Hearing this, Bale grins, hoping the labyrinth's ancient mysteries will finally be completely cracked open. But Bale notices Ash freezing up in horror. With a deadly serious glare, Ash points out that a hidden staircase just spawned. He points straight at a terrifyingly dark opening in the wall. The stone had literally shifted, revealing an ominous path plunging deeper into the abyss. Ash points to the elevator, but Edgar quickly shoots that lazy idea down. He explains the third button is totally dead. His guess, the ancient artifact just lacks the juice to power the lower levels. Bale sighs, realizing they'll have to rely on their own 2 feet to descend. He warns Ash to stay sharp. The deeper they go, the more terrifying the monsters waiting in the shadows will be. By morning, Ash and Ula realize the local lizardmen have completely ghosted them. Talon scratches his head, noting the respawn timer is definitely overdue. Ash stays dead silent, letting Kyle and Tanya scan the eerie emptiness. Flashback to last night's camp where Sir Edgar handed them a super specific mission. He needed Ash to scout the 19th floor's lizardmen. Bingo, Edgar's hunch was spot on. The system's usual monster respawn was completely broken. Snapping back to reality, Ash racks his brain for answers. Kyle chimes in, suggesting they push forward to floor 18. Hitting the lower level, they find an absolute ghost town. 0 monsters in sight. Ash mutters, this is totally unprecedented. But suddenly, on floor 17, a massive beast crashes the party. Parrying the heavy blow, Ash connects the dots. The respawn cycle is active down here. With 0 hesitation, he buries his blade deep into the beast's core. Amidst the chaos, a hunter screams they got too cocky. The beast unleashes a deafening roar. Another hunter panics, yelling that it's summoning backup. Ash barks orders over the noise. Mission accomplished, time for a tactical full-speed retreat. Back on floor 20, Ash delivers the glitchy respawn intel. Sir Edgar's face darkens, gears turning as he processes this anomaly. Giving him a solid pat on the back, Edgar keeps it brief. Solid work. Ash blinks, surprised by the totally uncharacteristic short response. Turning to Roy, Edgar decisively pulls the plug on the entire investigation. Roy's booming voice echoes through the cavern, officially declaring this massive expedition a wrap. Back at the entrance, everyone gets a pat on the back. Stepping outside, Ash breathes a massive sigh of sweet survival. Roy casually strolls up, praising Ash's epic hustle before mentioning he's heading out. He drops a dramatic farewell for now. Ash wishes him safe travels, sealing the goodbye with a solid, manly handshake. Ash turns to Ula, ready to crash at home. Meanwhile, Edgar aggressively checks on the ancient text translation progress. He declares that the exact second the copy is done, they are packing up. The exhausted scholar proudly announces the transcription is totally flawless. She pivots, finally walking away from the massive glowing artifact. But suddenly, the sacred panel violently glitches out, flashing a completely terrifying error code. System overload. Dungeon mutation imminent. Meanwhile, over in Dungeon 1, Mira is currently staring down a colossal, freaky mechanical boss. Launching herself into the sky, she charges her spear with absolutely devastating energy. Boom! She brings the hammer down instantly, exploding the mechanical monstrosity's head into a million metallic pieces. Standing triumphantly in a shower of sparks, Mira gets cartoon dollar signs in her eyes. This scrap is pure profit. Cut back to the bustling city. The vibe inside the local adventurer guild is absolutely jumping. Hitting the front desk, the guild girl praises her epic haul. Mira casually flips her hair, bragging about today's crazy jackpot. She drops 2 completely stuffed loot bags on the counter. Floor 4 was practically an ATM today. 2 randoms swagger over, trying to get her attention. One of them smoothly shoots his shot, inviting her out for a pub crawl. She pauses. She really should go track down Ash. But honestly, the easy money in this dungeon city is way too sweet to leave. The dude desperately begs her to ditch the responsibilities and just come party with them. Out of nowhere, the second guy aggressively waves a fresh newspaper in her face. He points to the headline, asking if this Ash is her missing guy. Her eyes lock onto the page and her jaw literally hits the floor. Front page news: a legendary hunter named Ash absolutely dominated the latest dungeon investigation. She scans the names: Ash and Ula. A dark aura of pure rage erupts around her as she realizes they're living it up in City 2. Seeing their absolutely massive reward bonus makes her blood boil. She stomps the floor, screaming about how they hit the jackpot without her. Eyes burning with unholy jealousy, she boldly declares she's marching straight to City 2. The panicked receptionist tries to block her, but Mira shouts that her mind is violently made up. Slamming her hands down, the desk girl literally begs her to clear her pending quest log first. The guys offer her premium bonus pay, joining the frantic begging. The guild is absolutely desperate for Mira to stay and grind. Throwing her hands up in pure joy, the receptionist cheers that the real work can finally begin. Slamming her mighty spear down, she boasts about a speed run. Cut to the 5th floor, where she steels her nerves against the brutal elite mobs. But wait, a blazing beam of raw energy suddenly hurtles straight down the corridor. A tiny kid is cornered by terrifying beasts sobbing for their life. Paralyzed by absolute dread, the little one can only watch death approach. Mira blinks. A kid in a high-level zone. Something smells incredibly fishy here. As the ruthless mechanical golems march closer, the pipsqueak unleashes a blood-curdling shriek. Throwing her tiny hands forward, she desperately screams at the metallic nightmares to back off. Zap! A wild surge of crackling electricity blasts from her palms, frying a machine. Mira drops her jaw. Was that actual high-tier magic? The scorched golem twitches once before, completely shutting down in a cloud of smoke. Mira mutters that this dungeon raid just got incredibly weird. But the relief is painfully short-lived as the stunned monster abruptly reboots, rejoining the deadly swarm. Watching the metallic army close the gap, the terrified kid begs the heavens for a savior. Hero mode activated. Mira doesn't even blink before diving right into the chaos. Soaring through the air, she launches her trusty spear like a lethal missile. Bullseye. The devastating strike obliterates the first mechanical beast into absolute scrap metal. Dashing past the stunned kid, our fierce main character charges the remaining metallic horde. With a smooth recovery, she violently impales another unlucky golem. Becoming a literal tornado of destruction, her spinning blade shreds every single enemy in sight. Gracefully vaulting over a deadly swipe, she lands firmly between the kid and the danger. Stay right behind me, Mira commands, taking an unbreakable defensive stance. Oh great, a second wave is crashing in, eyes burning with intense fighting spirit. Mira rockets forward to scrap the rest of these tin cans. Her weapon dances like a deadly flash of lightning, effortlessly dismantling the entire mob. Starstruck, the kid gasps at this ridiculous display of overpowered martial arts. Just the boss mob left, Mira roars, winding up for an epic finisher. Channeling every ounce of her insane aura, she descends and absolutely crushes the final beast. Dusting off her hands, our tired hero turns to the pint-sized trespasser. Alright kid, she pants, how did a rookie end up in a mid-tier danger zone? The little runaway looks down, biting their lip in guilty silence. Suddenly they latch onto Mira's hands, bawling their eyes out in a dramatic flood of gratitude. Fast forward to the bustling guild hall, where an annoyed Mira demands a proper explanation. Did your party wipe? Or did some trash-tier teammates ditch you? Sniffling, the kid confesses to going rogue just to dodge their overbearing noble family's ridiculous demands. Spilling the tragic backstory, she admits she's a capital city aristocrat with an insanely book-smart older brother. Because Big Bro was buried in dusty tomes, the stressful heir title crashed right onto her tiny shoulders. Worse, those power-hungry geezers tried locking her into a twisted political marriage. Confused by the timeline, Mira casually asks her actual age. I'm 16, she pouts, making Mira's jaw literally drop to the tavern floor in sheer disbelief. Cue the absurd anime explanation. A rare magical backlash permanently froze her physical growth at 12. And the absolute cherry on top, her arranged partner was some haughty ancient noblewoman. Slamming her tiny fists down, she furiously demands her own slice of romantic freedom. Mira rubs her temples. Yeah, escaping that ridiculous soap opera makes total sense now. The runaway proudly claims she'll build her own fortune as a lone wolf hunter. Amused but skeptical, Mira interrogates her about essential gear potions and actual survival tools. The clueless aristocrat cheerfully admits her flawless plan survived purely on tap water until a fancy inn dinner. Thwack. Mira mercilessly flicks the brat's forehead, punishing that ridiculously suicidal mindset. Listen up, pampered princess. The abyss isn't some magical playground for clueless tourists, she scolds sharply. Ordering her straight back to her mansion, Mira brutally roasts her total lack of adventurer prep. But the rebellious noble furiously shakes her head. Going back to that golden cage is not an option. Clinging to Mira's muscular arm, she drops her comedic act entirely. With sparkles in her eyes, she passionately screams that she wants to become an absolute badass like Mira. Critical hit. Mira blushes hard, completely short-circuiting at the brutally honest praise. The kid admits she was completely spellbound by that awe-inspiring, overpowered spear choreography. Busting out the ultimate puppy dog eyes, she violently begs to join the party. Please take me in, I'll literally do your laundry, the desperate runaway bargains. Sweating bullets under this unrelenting pressure, Mira internally panics about adopting a teenage noble. Ripping at her own hair in pure comedic agony, our fierce warrior loses the mental battle. Defeated by cuteness, she caves, but instantly declares a hellish, Spartangent-level training regimen for her new apprentice. While the tiny noble literally dances with joy, Mira sighs, already feeling the colossal headache approaching. Resigned to her fate, she formally drops her name, Mira, the reluctant babysitter. Puffing out her tiny chest, the squirt boldly declares her name, Ren Albadine. Mira facepalms at her ruined schedule. Well, I'm late again. Let's go meet the idiots. Yelling into the void, she prays her teammates Ash and Ula haven't ditched her yet. Meanwhile, deep within the second labyrinth, Ash fiercely guards a mysterious underground lake. Hand resting on his legendary hilt, his sharp senses catch a massive, ominous ripple breaking the dark surface. Drawing his blade, he instantly channels his combat aura. Boom. A colossal nightmarish leviathan erupts from the depths, casting a terrifying shadow right over his head. a massive crocodile beast explodes from the water, rushing straight for Ash. He immediately shouts to Ula that their target is finally out. Leaping gracefully into the air, Ula snipes a perfect arrow right down the beast's throat. 3 more scaly freaks crash the party, forcing them into combat mode. Ash cleanly deflects a brutal strike before driving his blade straight through another monster's skull. "Watch your right flank," Ula screams, tracking the final enemy movements. Ash spins like a tornado, slicing the last 2 beasts in one epic strike. Standing back to back, Ula reminds him to stay frosty. With the trash cleared, Ash votes to find their next prey. Fast forward 1 month and our duo is back to the daily grind. Glancing around the dungeon, they spot a massive influx of newbie hunters flooding in from neighboring towns. Their recent dungeon clearing success went completely viral, drawing huge crowds. Honestly, they were practically choking on endless media interviews. Flashing Arano's exclusive dagger, they easily swatted away the annoying swarm of guild recruiters. Seeing the area completely wiped of monsters, Ash sighs and calls it a wrap. Hitting the 20th floor, they officially clock out. Just as they turn to bail, a very familiar voice echoes down the hallway. Ren Albadine strolls up, flashing his signature bright smile. They casually joke about how the upper-level monster respawn rate is totally broken right now. Ash whines about the horrible drop rates, crying that he only bagged 4 measly kills today. Ula brings up how rough the dungeon scholars have it, asking if they get scared. Ren smoothly replies that the Royal Knights act as their personal shields. Ren drops a heavy hint that the Deep Floor expedition is launching real soon. Waving goodbye, our hero duo steps away to head home. Out of nowhere, the fancy dungeon elevator lights start flickering like a cheap horror movie. Stepping out into the lobby, Ash praises the magical lift. It is a sweet elite perk exclusively meant for top-tier expedition hunters like them. Cut to the bustling capital where our duo struts through the incredibly crowded streets. A friendly street vendor shouts a greeting and Ash casually replies, they just wrapped up a raid. Catching their banter, a local auntie teases them for acting like an old married couple. Thanks to their fame, they were basically major celebrities here. Entering the guild hall, Ash hands May their fresh loot. Out of nowhere, some random hater loudly calls them pathetic lapdogs for the nobility. A bunch of bitter background characters aggressively mock how easy it must be to get totally filthy rich. Creeping up, they arrogantly suggest Ula join the real pros instead. Ula glares deadly daggers, ready to absolutely decimate them, but Ash desperately holds her back. He sighs, explaining these chumps are just insanely jealous of their elite status. Right on cue, a very familiar voice cuts through the rising tension. Tanya strolls into the chaotic scene, playfully teasing them for hogging all the action. Rolling her eyes, she vents about dealing with totally useless whiny extras all day long. Triggered, the loudmouth thug barks at her for calling them weaklings. Flashing a psycho smile, Tanya practically begs him to step up and catch these hands. Grabbing Tanya's collar, the fool screams at her to bring it on. Bam, one flawless counter. Later, the guy is eating dirt, completely paralyzed by her flawless technique. Seeing red, his buddy charges in only to be effortlessly slammed into the floorboards. Without skipping a beat, Tanya absolutely punts the guy across the room. Panicking, Ash and Ula sprint over to stop Tanya's rampage. Instead of de-escalating, Ula completely loses it and decks another random thug right in the jaw. The remaining lackey stares in sheer terror at his wrecked friends. Radiating pure demonic aura, both girls crack their knuckles for round 2. A perfectly synced double punch sends the final idiot straight to sleep. Ash facepalms so hard it hurts, violently groaning at this absolute circus. He mutters that his party members are literally just walking disaster zones. While Ash bows an apology, May awkwardly admits those guys had been absolute menaces lately anyway. Ash asks if Tanya is catching specific hate, but she shrugs, claiming all elite hunters deal with jealous haters. The hunter world is strictly survival of the fittest. Natural talent is just a baseline. It definitely does not make you untouchable. Meanwhile, at the dungeon, a busted-up thug whines about being locked out of the exclusive elevator. The stoic guards bluntly tell the losers to take the boring stairs. The thug leader grinds his teeth, violently complaining about how the elites get pampered with ridiculous shortcuts. On another front, Kyle and his shiny armored squad gear up to raid the abyssal depths. Throwing a tantrum, the salty hunter kicks a random bucket, crying about being underappreciated, until a mysterious foot traps the bucket dead in its tracks. 2 super sketchy hooded figures emerge from the shadows, making the thugs freeze. With eerie calmness, the strangers invite the sore losers to a deep floor alliance. Baffled by this totally suspicious offer, the thug demands answers. The dark figures softly explain a secret loophole for parties passing floor 20. Blinded by sheer greed and fragile egos, the absolute fools quickly swallow the bait. Flashing a sinister grin, the thug happily accepts their super shady deal. The shadowy figures declare sealing the contract. Down on floor 13, a bony welcome party of skeleton warriors clatters toward them. Ash whispers a genius stealth plan. But boom, a squad of ridiculously loud rookies stomps right past, ruining his perfectly good ambush. Dibs on the loot, the hot-headed hunters scream, charging the undead mobs like absolute maniacs without a single thought. They blindly spam their attack skills. Sweat dropping in the bushes, Ash and Ula just stand there awkwardly, totally robbed of their epic battle. Later at the guild, Ash sighs. Man, these out-of-town newbies seriously lack basic dungeon etiquette. Approaching the entrance, they hear absolute chaos. Inside, a frantic mob of hunters is gearing up for an emergency rescue operation. What is with all the drama? Spotting Talon and his teammate in the crowd, our duo casually strolls over for the latest gossip. Talon drops the heavy news. A hunter corpse just spawned on floor 14. Ash shakes his head. Classic mistake. These arrogant rookies keep underestimating the mid-tier dungeon mobs, and it costs them everything. Talon scoffs, calling it instant karma for those troublemakers. Check this out, he mutters, sliding over a grim sketch of the discovered victim. Ash blinks. Wait, that armor. It is the exact loudmouth from yesterday's skeleton killsteal. Talon nods grimly. Yep, the very same jerks who threw a massive lobby tantrum earlier. Ash does the math. 4 idiots went in, but only 2 bodies dropped. Turns out the other 2 are completely missing from the safe zone. Super suspicious. The terrain down there is soft, meaning their bodies or footprints should have definitely left obvious clues behind. Brushing off the bad vibes, Ash accepts some reassuring pats on the back. Bidding the crew farewell, our heroes finally decide to head home. Plot twist: receptionist May suddenly flags them down. She leans in, asking about the annoying poaching attempts from rival guilds lately. Hearing their exhausting rants, she smirks. Problem solved, she chimes, revealing a shiny new system of VIP dog tags for exclusive guild members. Ash tilts his head. How is this any different from our standard-issue hunter licenses? May winks, explaining these trinkets act as the ultimate VIP identification badges. Basically, it is a free pass to instantly reject those annoying guild scouts without starting a massive brawl. But there is a catch: they need an immediate boss interview. Lucky for you, May whispers, the elusive branch chief is actually in her office today. Is not that normal? Ula asks. Nope, the boss is practically a ghost. Shrugging, the duo agrees and marches toward the ominous chief office. Tap tap, May knocks on the oak doors, formally announcing our VIP rookies. Enter. A smooth voice echoes. As the heavy doors creak open, a striking woman sitting behind a massive mahogany desk warmly welcomes them in. Flashing a dazzling smile, she drops her title, Aurora, the big boss herself. Ah, the rising stars. I have been dying to meet you, she purrs. Bowing respectfully, Ash and Ula are starstruck, facing the legendary commander herself. Running both the guild and city, she is basically local royalty with epic stats. She is so overpowered at multitasking that she rarely visits. Waving her hand, Aurora casually declares they can completely skip the annoying interview phase. Turns out, Captain Bale has been aggressively hyping up Ash's crazy dungeon-clearing stats behind the scenes. Ash sweat drops. Then why summon us? Her smile widens. She simply wanted to gaze upon the city's most hilariously overpowered rookies with her own eyes. Skipping the fluff, Aurora pops open a velvet box on her desk. Inside, the ultimate symbol of prestige, their shiny, brand-new VIP tags. She chimes that the sparkling gold ones are exclusively for elite solo operatives, while silver goes to our top-tier guild squads. Flashing another charming smile, she calls their insane growth rate an absolute rarity in this town. Taking critical damage from compliments, our duo blushes, completely unequipped for such heavy praise. Shaking their hands, she bids them a mysterious farewell. Walking out, Ash and Ula exchange baffled looks, completely weirded out by the chief's cryptic boss energy. The doors click shut. Well, that happened, Ash mutters, ready for the daily grind. Ula immediately puffs her cheeks, pouting with a hilariously jealous glare. She was super pretty, huh? Ash quickly grabs her arm, desperately trying to defuse the bomb. Relax, he chuckles warmly. My type is way more cute and delicate. He locks eyes with her, letting the romantic tension hang for a glorious second. Critical hit, Ula instantly morphs into a glowing tomato, short-circuiting from his sudden charm. Whatever, that is fine, then she stammers, storming off. Later on, floor 16, the scorching desert sun reveals a nasty swarm of flying beasts. Ula vents her embarrassment by drawing her bow. A massive energy arrow explodes mid-air, blasting the ugly creatures straight out of the sky with terrifying precision. Ash gives a thumbs up, praising her totally maxed out anti-air sniper skills. Glancing around, Ash sighs, praying they do not trip over any more dead hunters today. Pointing at the beast drops, he jogs over to harvest the shiny materials. Looking deeply troubled, Ula ponders why those out-of-town tryhards rush to their doom. Ash nods grimly. Stumbling across player corpses has become a totally normal Tuesday lately. This goes beyond mere stupidity, he mutters, though Ula tilts her head in total confusion. Suddenly, his eyes widen. Something completely unexpected breaks the barren wasteland's horizon. Hey, look out, he suddenly yells, spotting a cluster of collapsed figures sprawled across the unforgiving dirt. Sprinting toward the eerie scene, they close in to uncover this gruesome mystery. Ash checks their vitals, 0 pulse on all 4, he gasps. Wait a minute. Those faces belong to the missing duo from their earlier explosive brawl. The horrifying truth hits them: these poor guys died miles away from their squad. What kind of insane nightmare is this dungeon hiding? Fast forward a few days, Bale casually summons our dynamic duo for an outrageously fancy dinner. Sorry to keep you waiting. Ash starts to apologize, but then his brain short-circuits. Ula is wearing a breathtakingly elegant white dress. He freezes completely, his entire face turning bright red in absolute awe. Earth to Ash, she teases. He stammers out that she looks absolutely gorgeous. Beaming brightly, she completely returns the compliment, noting his incredibly dashing outfit. Expecting some cheap street food, their jaws drop at the ridiculously luxurious 5-star restaurant. A terribly stiff butler escorts them to a VIP parlor. Opening the heavy doors, their eyes completely bug out at the absolute surprise waiting inside. Lounging comfortably, Kyle and Aurora flash dazzling smiles, warmly welcoming our stunned heroes to the evening's grand feast. Aurora cheerfully claims host duties. Ash totally panics internally. Why on earth is the intimidating branch chief crashing their meal? Grinning like a fool, Bale drops a massive bomb. Aurora is actually his fiancée. Ash and Ula practically drop their jaws straight to the floor. The pieces instantly click. That entirely explains how she already knew their chaotic background story. Pouting playfully, Aurora admits Bale fanboys over Ash so much she gets a tiny bit jealous. Laughing heartily, Bale raises his glass to kick off the epic feast. Between bites, Bale casually drops some heavy lore. He actually grew up in a gritty local orphanage. Mind blown, Ash praises his crazy climb to Division Chief. Bale modestly credits his dad, who headhunted Aurora for her absolute genius at handling those snooty nobles. Mixing business with extreme romance, Bale proudly smirks, bragging that he bravely popped the big question first. Blushing at the sweetness, our duo declares them a total power couple. Curiously, Ula wonders if dealing with the Wild Association guild members ever becomes a massive headache. Aurora sighs, heavily admitting those arrogant out-of-town hunters are causing some seriously nasty headaches lately. Nodding darkly, Ash brings up those bizarre dungeon fatalities. Are rookies seriously foolish enough to wander into those deadly lower floors without a shred of fear? Bale rubs his chin, deeply troubled by the absolute chaos brewing inside that labyrinth. I am deploying extra nights tomorrow, he declares firmly. Later, stepping into the cool night air, Bale suspiciously yanks Ash aside for a super-secret bro chat. Whispering slyly, he confirms he pulled strings at a premium jeweler for Ash's extremely confidential request. Did you snag her ring size? Bale winks. Ash aggressively nods. Meanwhile, the girls dramatically cross their arms, totally annoyed by their highly suspicious whispering club. Sensing the secrets, Aurora smoothly invites Ula for an exclusive girls-only shopping spree very soon. Morning strikes, Ash bravely leads the charge back down into the abyss. Whoa, this third floor is practically turning into a crowded tourist trap, he jokes. Ula gasps. People have literally built spicy food stalls and noisy blacksmith forges completely underground. Ash smirks wickedly. Rumor has it there is even a brothel. Ula brutally twists his ear, demanding to know if those nerdy scholars are hiding in there too. Ow, ow, no, the researchers get fancy luxury inns. They are way too important, he whines. Hitting floor 9, the horrible foot traffic is laughable. By floor 10, the vibe shifts darkly. A frantic guild party is desperately patching up a bleeding teammate. Pushing deeper to the terrifying 16th floor, another motionless figure chillingly blocks their path. Creeping closer, the horrible reality drops another lifeless victim. Scanning the grim scene, a massive, supposedly fatal chest wound practically screams for their immediate attention. A monster attack, Ula guesses nervously. Ash disagrees completely. A beast would leave way more messy strikes. Squinting intensely, Ash spots a tiny, suspicious mark directly on the victim's neck. Looks exactly like a microscopic needle prick. Ula observes, sending his brain into complete overdrive. Prying the jaw open, Ash violently flinches, a sickeningly purple tongue. The terrifying truth clicks. That bloody chest wound was nothing but a cheap theatrical decoy. During an urgent meeting, they propose a terrifying new theory: deliberate, cold-blooded poisoning. Ash completely nerds out, identifying the deadly purple moonflower toxin. Kyle looks incredibly impressed by his massive brain, but Ash humbly admits he tragically witnessed a matching crime before. Bale's expression darkens instantly. That incredibly rare floral nightmare is heavily banned across the entire kingdom. Eyes practically glowing with determination, Ash declares this wasn't mere bad luck, it was absolute murder. The entire room collectively gasps, completely paralyzed by the horrifying accusation. Slamming her fist down, a furious Tanya roars that a terrifying man-eater is hunting below. A what now? Ash blinks in total confusion. Talon grimly explains it's nasty slang for a hunter-killing bandit. Kyle darkly adds the lawless dungeon is a perfect murderer's playground. He grimly points out that this utterly terrifying logic perfectly matches those mysterious lower-level fatalities. Hold on. May objects sharply. These weird killers didn't loot a single piece of gear. Ash narrows his eyes, questioning if this poor guy was their only true prey. May warns this mysterious psycho might just be hunting victims for pure, twisted entertainment. Ash nods, ready for action, seizing the moment Bale drops a heavy quest. With dead serious eyes, he begs our dynamic duo to guard the dark dungeon. The knight roster is pitifully empty right now. Sweating Bale swears he trusts them completely, bribing them with a massive stack of shiny association gold. Grinning like a true protagonist, Ash accepts the incredibly lucrative side quest. The peanut gallery beams with immense pride. Relieved Bale and May shower our heroes with dramatic praise for carrying this absolutely chaotic murder investigation. Talon chimes in, casually asking if they have permission to totally obliterate the culprit on sight. Sweating bullets, Bale admits they have absolutely zero intel on the enemy's power level. The comedic mood vanishes instantly. Talon and Kyle gear up for pure danger. Meanwhile, Ash mentally prepares to clash with this terrifying, shadowy serial killer. Later, Ash finally spots the extremely fancy jewelry shop Bale hyped up. Staring at the glittering window, his wallet suddenly cries in fear. Stepping inside, he awkwardly remembers that magical romantic trope of gifting cute bracelets. Marching to the sparkling counter, the cheerful clerk instantly recognizes the famous lord. She smoothly guesses he is shopping for a lucky lady. Staring at the shiny loot, he plans a completely epic romantic confession for Ula. Probing for gossip, the clerk asks how serious they are, making our hero panic. She then casually drops a massive bombshell: Red Ruby's mean marriage. Ash totally short-circuits his face, turning redder than the giant gemstone itself. Swallowing his nerves, he bravely buys the legendary romantic item. Cut to the gloomy dungeon, where our duo gears up for action. Greeting the armored guards, he cheerfully announces his heroic return. Thanks to Bale's desperate plea, they are basically babysitting the entire Royal Knight squad today. After some polite salutes, Ash casually checks if any crazy dungeon monsters spawned lately. The guard reports absolute boring peace, earning a relaxed nod from our mighty protagonist. A knight totally fangirls over Ash's amazing assistance. But wait, a chilling noise echoes from the darkness, instantly freezing everyone in their absolute tracks. Two frantic hunters sprint out of the gloomy shadows, screaming wildly for backup. The squad intercepts them instantly. Trembling like a leaf, a traumatized hunter points into the pitch-black abyss, screaming that a brutal slaughter is happening nearby. Shaking the terrified guy, the guard frantically demands the exact location of the maniac. The team blasts off like literal rockets into the terrifying dark. Turning the corner, a chilling silhouette totally looms over a fresh, bloody victim. Gripping a bloody blade, the creepy shadow stands menacingly over the absolutely crushed corpse. Vile toxic slime steadily drips from its jaw. Spinning around, the absolute monster reveals a horrifying, nightmare-inducing face straight out of a horror manga. Ash completely freezes, totally baffled by this ugly boss monster. A clueless knight bravely shouts a generic arrest warning, but Ash's danger senses loudly ping. Suddenly, the crazed suspect grabs his skull, shrieking in pure, absolute horrific agony. Howling like a wounded beast, the guy totally thrashes around. Sweating nervously, the completely confused knight watches this bizarre, dramatic physical breakdown unfold. Boom! The maniac launches himself like a cannonball, wildly swinging his deadly blade. Clang! The guard miraculously blocks the fatal strike, but the sheer ridiculous kinetic impact sends him rocketing backward, crashing brutally into the hard stone floor. Ash drops his jaw in pure shock. The monster slowly turns his terrifying gaze, leaving our hero absolutely speechless at this insane, unnatural brute force. The guy looked completely scrawny, yet he basically swatted a heavy knight like a fly. Roaring madly, the lunatic suddenly dives at the protagonist. Ash swiftly raises his trusty blade, blocking the heavy strike with epic, flawless timing. Gritting his teeth against the heavy pressure, Ash questions this broken power scaling. Ula aggressively aims her weapon, but Ash orders her to wait. Parrying the wild swings, Ash totally realizes this guy possesses absolute zero martial arts skill. The mindless zombie just keeps randomly slashing with pure rage. Reading those empty, crazed eyes, Ash realizes someone else is totally pulling the strings. Sidestepping smoothly, our agile hero elegantly vaults right over the berserker. The stunned zombie clumsily spins around, totally losing track of the speed. Bam! Ash delivers a absolutely devastating comic-style knee strike right to his face. The villain completely faceplants, instantly knocked out cold. Staring at the defeated foe, Ash rubs his neck, totally bewildered by this entire chaotic, random encounter. While the guards tightly hogtie the psycho, Ash stares blankly, utterly confused by everything. A random guard cheerfully suggests an intense interrogation back at base, but suddenly a terrifying shadow creeping up from behind makes the poor guy completely freeze. The supposedly innocent survivor slowly rises weirdly, mumbling apologies. Ash and the guards slowly turn around, absolute dread totally washing over their shocked faces. Grabbing his skull, this new guy totally goes berserk too. Ash violently blocks another punch, realizing this terrifying zombie virus has instantly infected another host. Completely done with this absolute nonsense, Ula angrily screams at everyone. Wham! She delivers a flawlessly timed, spectacularly brutal flying kick straight into the new lunatic. The poor guy totally rockets backward, hitting the floor completely unconscious. Dusting her hands with a smug smirk, Ula proudly declares the ridiculous chaos finally handled. Come morning, the totally captured zombie furiously swears his memory is completely blank. Sweating bullets under the night's glare, he swears he remembers entering the dungeon. Voice cracking, he cries that he'd never backstab his decade-long bro. Peeking through the glass, Ash and Ula watch the sweaty interrogation unfold. The knight salutes Bale, confirming the suspects are completely clean of poison. Sighing heavily, Bale mutters that suspect number 2 has total amnesia too. Scratching his head, Ash groans that this plot is full of holes. Ula squints, wondering why the villain is suddenly crashing the dungeon party now. She points out that before this, they only ever found next-day victims. The second the knight's clock and suspects magically pop up like NPCs, Ash smirks, betting the mastermind actually wants their messy crimes to be found. Bale rubs his chin, guessing a puppet master is brainwashing innocent hunters. Ash whistles at the big brain strat, noting it definitely isn't about the gold. Bale drops lore, revealing the Rosebell Kingdom has a massive target on its back. Ash blinks. Are they trying to crash the entire kingdom's economy? Tapping the map, Bale names Arlon as their absolute biggest hater. Fueled by divine faith, the kingdom of Arlon sees Rosebell as the ultimate raid boss. Ash deadpans that one measly flower isn't enough to accuse an entire nation. Eyes turning dead serious, Bale declares this is a full-scale war on Rosebell. He sighs that security is tight, yet 0 suspects are on the logs. Ula guesses the villain is camping in the dungeon, but Ash groans that the empty guest logs just make this puzzle even more annoying. Bale suggests tagging in Marquise Orlano for this headache. Days drag on and the investigation hits a massive, frustrating brick wall. Stomping through the dungeon, Ash whines about their absolute 0 drop rate on clues. Bam! A super suspicious, alluring woman suddenly slides up to a random hunter. She whispers a shady but tempting deal right there in the dungeon. Smelling trouble, Ash and Ula instantly crash the party. The woman flashes photos of the exact guys who brawled and got busted earlier. She spills the tea. Those guys were targeted by a sneaky dungeon duo too. She describes a young, mega-suspicious couple. Jaws dropping, Ash and Ula lock eyes. They finally scored an epic clue to crack the case. Flipping his desk, Bale realizes they totally missed a massive investigative blind spot. The hunter logs and the red light district records are kept in totally different systems. Ash snaps his fingers. A sneaky pro could easily cosplay as a normal hunter. Bale facepalms, realizing they foolishly assumed the boss was a brawler. Flashing a smug grin, Ash cheers that the plot is finally moving forward. Eyes burning with determination, Bale gears up to launch their ultimate trap. Outside, heavy armored knights lock down the spicy southern entertainment district. Bale briefs them that the shady dungeon escorts spawn right from this very zone. A knight skids to a halt, roaring that the strike team is ready. With a booming battle cry, Bale commands the full-scale sweep. Watching the chaos, Ula sweats, wondering if this raid will actually catch the villain. Looking unusually serious, Ash taps Ula on the shoulder. He reminds her of Bale's theory. The bad guys want to completely crash the dungeon runs. Ula tilts her head. Ganking a few low-level hunters wouldn't cause that much damage, right? Ash nods furiously. Why ignore the high-ranking VIPs if they want real chaos? Then it hits him like a truck, eyes bulging in pure horror. Ash screams that the true targets are the squishy scholars. Waving his arms, he panics. The scholars are the big brains carrying this entire kingdom. Ula counters that the nerds have elite night guards, but Ash's jaw drops. The dungeon murders were just a flashy decoy to pull aggro. The horrible truth clicks. Raiding the red light district was exactly what the enemy wanted. Clutching his head, he screams. They just walked blindly into a massive trap. Kaboom! A deafening explosion totally rocks the southern district. Panicking at the massive fireball, knights are immediately ordered to rush into the chaos. Ash screams his lungs out. It is all a giant smokescreen. He grabs Ula, yelling they have to sprint to the central zone right now. Sprinting for their lives, Ula sweats over Ren, but Ash swears he will bag the villains alive. Gritting his teeth, Ash connects the dots. It is a scholar kidnapping plot. Those geeks literally hold the server wiki for all dungeon knowledge. Ula gasps in horror. Losing that data would instantly game over the entire kingdom. Skidding to a halt at the inn, they find the front door violently smashed open. Bursting inside with hearts pounding, their worst nightmare comes true. The elite knights are scattered across the floor like broken ragdolls. Ash freezes in absolute terror. Are the squishy scholars already gone? But wait, a creepy, mysterious shadow glides down the staircase, trailing right behind. The kidnapped scholars staring blankly, like completely brainwashed zombies. Wait, those outfits completely match the dungeon assassins. The creeping hooded figures sneer, noting 2 pesky bugs are still crawling around. With an unconscious Ren lugged between them, our duo readies for an epic clash. Weapons drawn and nerves fried, Ash fiercely glares at the creeps. He screams, demanding to know their twisted mastermind plot. Ditching the whole mysterious vibe, the arrogant villains finally yank off their hoods. The cocky guy yawns, suggesting they just mop up the leftover trash. Ash gasps, these jerks are the absolute ringleaders of this chaotic mess. Gripping their gear, our heroes boldly vow to absolutely wreck these arrogant punks. Smirking like a classic comic villain, the guy calls the kingdom's hunters total brainless fools. Then, grinning creepily, he promises a violently entertaining magic show. Bam, a blinding flash of flashy magic instantly blasts Ash square in the face. Boom, his entire nervous system crashes, collapsing like a sack of potatoes. Ash desperately fights the spinning dizziness to stay completely conscious. How was my spectacular spell, the villain mocks. Ash just groans, clutching his painfully ringing skull from that absolutely cheap shot. Fighting the brutal migraine, he wildly turns, checking if Ula survived the blast. Trembling uncontrollably, her brain is completely scrambled too. Flicking his wrist like an evil hypnotist, the villain commands the dazed girl forward. Ash screams her name, but she zombie walks straight toward the grinning enemy. Leaning in close, the mastermind breathes a sinister command into her ear. Completely ignoring Ash's frantic screaming panic, a blank-faced Ula slowly